don't have a 10 cent, then a 5 cent will do. And if you don't have a 5 cent, Rasta bless you. Say, God bless. Say, God bless the eye. Rasta bless the eye. It's coming again. Boy. Yeah, yeah. Christmas is coming again, coming again, boy. Christmas time, I saw me hear them say, but oh what fun it is to ride on a New York City subway. It's a Christmas time, I will be hear them say, but oh what fun it is to ride on a New York City subway. Splashing through the snow, a pretty young girl I know. And on we go, that's how our world grows. Keep the music play, listen every word they say. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a New York City subway.
Thank you so much. So just before our official start, the evacuation notice will be made.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bank of Jamaica. In the interest of your own safety, kindly listen to the following announcement. Please note that emergency exits are located to your left. Do not sit or stand in the egress paths to the emergency exits. In the case of an emergency, an alarm will sound or an order given to evacuate the building. Proceed with urgency and in an orderly manner to the nearest exit and leave the building with minimal delay through the main entrance doors. Do not attempt to use the elevators or escalators during the evacuation process. Descend the stairs as quickly and as carefully as possible to avoid accidents and stampedes. Unless otherwise advised, travel down the stairs in single file using the sides with handrails. Assemble in the bank's external car park at the furthest point away from the building. Once you have assembled in the car park, do not attempt to remove any motor vehicle from its parking space. In the assembly area, await the instructions of the protection officers or members of the emergency management team. Always follow the instructions of the protection officers, trained first aiders, or other emergency officials. Persons trained in the administering of CPR and first aid are kindly asked to render assistance to injured persons if required. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you too. Good morning, everyone. Let me acknowledge and welcome all of our partners, stakeholders to this webinar promoting financial inclusion for persons with disabilities through financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And so Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director, MSME Officer, representing the Minister of State, the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Dr. Wayne Robinson, Senior Deputy Governor, Bank of Jamaica, or Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, who is our guest speaker today, all of Mr. Paul Chin, who I met earlier, Manager Investor Relations at the Bank of Jamaica, all of our other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, persons with disabilities, welcome to this morning's forum. It is such a privilege to have you here, although it is my own first time, the first time for myself being here. But I am thankful that this day has come, and right on the eve of International Day for Persons with Disabilities, December 3, which is celebrated annually here in Jamaica and across the world. And so on behalf of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, the Bank of Jamaica, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, it is truly a privilege and a pleasure to be serving you today. So I am your chairperson for today, and here is my opening remarks. Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin. I didn't know that this was taken from Zechariah 4, verse 10, as it reminded us. And this thought came to mind as I thought of today and the fruit that it is, which began with one seemingly small conversation in 2017 when I sat around a table with a number of professionals, including Melanie Williams of the Bank of Jamaica, discussing matters surrounding NIDS at the time, but the matter of financial inclusion came up. As I listened, I decided to ask whether persons with disabilities have been considered in this critical policy of financial inclusion being crafted. That one question led to further conversations that day and several times subsequently, before and even during the pandemic as we were on lockdown. And so today it gives me great pleasure to stand here to see the unfolding of what is a potential game changer in the economic development of not only persons with disabilities, but our society as well. Persons with disabilities include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which the Disabilities Act says may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. I highlight the word may in this definition to help us understand that a person's impairment does not have to hinder their full and effective participation in society. Because the truth is, persons with disabilities have been making significant contribution to the development of Jamaica and will continue to do so as the relevant systems become more accessible to facilitate this process. Today, we have persons with disabilities here in the physical space and online who have been provided with the opportunity for their own development through economic empowerment grants from the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. And they have been able to become independent, taking care of themselves and or their families rather than being dependent on the state or other resources. But there are so many others for whom this door being opened will make a similar difference, so they too can contribute to their own economic development and by extension, that of Jamaica. And so this financial literacy and entrepreneurship webinar, this financial inclusion webinar today, will highlight, I am sure, what is available to persons with disabilities, what this financial inclusion means for each of us, and for them and for the country, so that as they walk the journey of becoming entrepreneurs, they too can have full access to what is available. I'm sure we all look forward to the discourse this morning, and I'm sure it will continue long after today. And so, having said that, I welcome you, and I am honored to be here. At this time, we will have our remarks by Mr. Oral Shaw on behalf of the State Minister in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Thank you very much.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Just before I go into my salutations, I just want to express our apologies for Ministers Hill and Dunn. As you might be aware, there's a major conference now taking place in Montego Bay, where we are targeting multi-billion-dollar investors into Jamaica. And that is a equally important event as this one. As you know, investments are very critical to achieving some of the economic objectives that the government set itself. And so I just want to apologize for their absence. On that note, I wish to acknowledge Dr. Christine Hendricks, I'm so sorry, the moderator for this program, Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, our guest speaker, and he holds several positions, I'm told, but I'm just going to talk about one of them just now, or make reference to one. He's the Shadow Minister for Housing and Sustainable Living. Dr. Wayne Robinson, Senator, the Senior Deputy Governor of the Bank of Jamaica. Ms. Melanie Williams, National Financial Inclusion Secretariat. She's a coordinator here at the Bank of Jamaica. Mr. Paul Chin, he's the manager for investor relationships at the Bank of Jamaica. Mrs. Melissa Bennett, she's the manager for business development support services at the Jamaica Business Development Corporation and agency of the ministry. Mrs. Yolande Rowe Fender, acting compliance manager, the Companies Office of Jamaica. Ms. Karen Hilton, small business development financial specialist at the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Mrs. Jacqueline Bennett, senior social worker at the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Members of the media, other special invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Did I hear it from everybody? Good morning. The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is very pleased to join the National Financial Inclusion Secretariat within the Bank of Jamaica in hosting this very important webinar on financial inclusion, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship for persons living with disabilities. We are meeting within the margins of the International Day of Disabled Persons observed annually on December 3 to promote an understanding of disability issues and to mobilize support for the dignity, rights, and well-being of persons living with disabilities. The observance also seeks to increase awareness of gains to be derived from integrating persons living with disabilities in every aspect of political, social, economic, and cultural life. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, it is vital that we use every available opportunity to encourage greater efforts at affirming the rights and privileges of all law-abiding members of the Jamaican society, and this includes our disabled population. It is an imperative that we must embrace as Jamaica continues to strengthen its position as an inclusive and enabling business and people-centered economy. The World Health Organization estimates that approximately 15% of the global population is living with some form of disability. In Jamaica, we are looking at an estimated 4% of total population living with some form of disability. And this is according to the latest Jamaica survey of living conditions. It's indeed a large figure, however small it may sound. The disabled are among the most vulnerable and marginalized in our society, and are often left susceptible to a range of social ills, including poor health, poverty, lower levels of educational attainment, and limited employment opportunities. Our ministry acknowledges, commends, and endorses the work of the Honorable Carl Samuda, Minister of Labor and Social Security, for tabling and passing the Disabilities Regulations 2021, which paved the way for the enactment of the Disabilities Act, which took effect earlier this year. The ministry is not satisfied, however, that across civil society enough is being done to actualize the strong tenets of the government's legislative framework, which, among other things, seeks to reduce discrimination against persons living with disabilities. It affirms their right to quality education, employment, health, access to public passenger vehicles, housing, and participation in political office and public life. The Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is keenly aware of the extent to which exclusion affects Jamaica's growth potential across several important sectors. Notwithstanding, persons living with disabilities continue to make significant contribution in the areas of manufacturing, the distributive trade, information, communication and technology, academia, and governance. We have a living example of it right in front of us. We have a minister, a shadow minister who is also an academician as well, Senator Dr. the Honorable Floyd Morris. We therefore use this opportunity to urge greater efforts at inclusion among the local business community. There are growing opportunities for members within the disabled community to benefit from capacity building and other support services. We provide that at the JBDC, and we have a representative here from the JBDC who can put you on to business development and capacity support services. These services can significantly bolster your productivity and by extension the enterprise that you lead or the place that you work. We encourage increased private sector involvement in initiatives that focus on creating a more inclusive environment for our local disabled community. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the major drivers of growth and development among the MSME sector, the micro, small, and medium enterprise sector, is increasing supply and access to affordable financing by addressing structural issues such as financial inclusion of vulnerable communities. Our ministry continues to work with our partners and stakeholders to ensure that business owners and employees who may be members of the disabled community are given every opportunity to pursue their lawful business objectives. As a matter of fact, goal number 2 of the ministry's MSME and entrepreneurship policy articulates affordable and appropriate financing, and specifically activity 2.4.4 emphasizes information dissemination activities for persons with disabilities and available financing opportunities. This disabled community is an integral part of our MSME policy. The policy, which was updated in 2018, is now up for review in 2023 and will provide an opportunity for further improvements to the current framework by addressing more cross-cutting issues that affect persons living with disabilities. Today's webinar is intended to support this drive that is being reinforced by the Bank of Jamaica's National Financial Inclusion Strategy, and specifically Pillar 4, which states responsible finance stresses the development of a comprehensive national program of financial literacy and public education campaigns. Ladies and gentlemen, we continue to work, that is the ministry continues to work with the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities and other partners to create access for more members of the local disabled community. Like most players in the global business community, they require access to affordable and appropriate financing, business development and expansion support services, training resources, tools, and corporate networks and partnerships. The cost of financial inclusion of any member of our society, particularly those living with disabilities, is too high. Businesses are affected, social safety net structures, families, caregivers, communities, and the general growth prospects of our economy are all weakened if it is not done. Failure to ensure equal access to financial services not only violates important human rights entrenchments, it also stands in the way of investment opportunities and general living conditions. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, the ministry wishes to express its sincere appreciation for the support of the Bank of Jamaica, Deputy Governor, and specifically to the National Financial Inclusion Secretariat for partnering with us on these very important and urgent activities as we seek to encourage other organizations to participate in this important call towards national growth and sustainable development. These are the words of Dr. the Honorable Don. Thank you very much.
Well said, ladies and gentlemen, well said. And we want to thank you and thank the minister for that understanding of the importance of inclusion of persons with disabilities in the financial sector. I thought when you said the minister was in Montego Bay to encourage investors who are quote-unquote billionaires, I thought, you know, someone with a disability could be in that number. You never know. Okay, thank you so much. Senior Deputy Governor of Bank of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Robinson, it's your turn for remarks. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Dr. Hendricks, Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, representing the Minister of State, Dr. Norman Dunn. Mr. Paul Chin, we'll take you as a BOJ, but he's our colleague at the Development Bank of Jamaica. Other representatives of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome you to Bank of Jamaica this morning, and a very special welcome to those who are joining online. Now, I know you're anxious to hear from our guest speaker and also the slate of informative presentations on the agenda. And so I'm going to be very, very brief in my remarks. Bank of Jamaica is really delighted to be able to partner with the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, MIC, and our other partners in hosting this seminar. The fact is, and we're all agreed, that no country, no society can achieve any sort of meaningful development unless it is inclusive. In addition to education, a key element of this inclusivity is ensuring that the population can access and utilize basic financial services and products. As such, promoting financial inclusion under the aegis of the government's National Financial Inclusion Strategy, which actually spans both parties, is one of the major activities of Bank of Jamaica. And in this regard, a key strategy is the promotion of financial literacy, as we want to ensure that our population is empowered to make sound financial decisions. The fact is, Jamaica has made some progress where financial inclusion is concerned. The recent survey by the World Bank showed that about 73% of Jamaica's adult population has a bank account. And that is considered high for a country at our stage of development. But that's not where we want to be, actually. And in fact, the data actually shows that we still have a long way to go, as only 32% of the adult population has actually accessed credit from any formal financial institution, only 32%. Moreover, just 49% of the population actually owns either a debit or a credit card. So we still have some work to do. And it's against this background that we are very happy to be a part of what I think is a very innovative webinar, as persons living with disabilities are important stakeholders to Bank of Jamaica. In fact, when Melanie came to me with this idea, I immediately said yes, because this segment of our population is very important. Our view at the bank is that persons living with disabilities, like any other stakeholder, are an important source of wealth and value creation for the Jamaican society and economy. So we feel that it is very important and essential that we target this segment of our population to ensure that they also are empowered to fully participate in the economy through greater knowledge and access to financial services. And ladies and gentlemen, this webinar and the agenda that was crafted was meant to achieve just that. I therefore believe that you're in for a very engaging and enthralling webinar with excellent speakers who are experts in their fields. And I should say, as I said to Melanie, Mr. Shaw, that I look forward to us staging the second leg of this webinar. certainly early in the new year, and perhaps it doesn't have to be in Kingston. We can take it to Montego Bay or some other part of the island, because indeed, I really think that this was really an innovative, Dr. Hendricks, a very innovative and creative idea. So ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the National Financial Inclusion team at the Bank of Jamaica, a warm welcome, and I wish you a productive seminar. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Wayne Robinson. I really like where we're heading. And, you know, Jamaica is being positioned in a good place. Senator, a very good place in terms of the inclusion agenda, you know, ensuring that persons with disabilities are not left behind. Thank you so much. Our guest presenter this morning is the Dr. Give me 1 second, please. So our presenter this morning is the Honorable Dr. Senator Floyd Morris. He's a self-motivated and goal-oriented individual. He has true willpower and through hard work made significant achievements in the field of academia, politics, and community development. Dr. Floyd Morris is no stranger to the Senate. As you heard, I've called him Senator. You know that he is a senator, and he has been there since 1998 for a period until 2007, then returning in 2012, where he then became the president in 2013. Of course, he is the first person who is blind who has become the president of the Jamaican Senate, and that is an achievement in and of itself. Senator Morris holds a Master of Philosophy in Government from the University of the West Indies. He also obtained a Bachelor of Arts in Mass Communication from that institution. He has done several research as it pertains to disabilities, and most recently, he has completed and launched his book that looks at the cultural aspect of the cultural contribution of persons with disabilities in Jamaica. I'm sure that you will be not only enthralled, but you will thoroughly enjoy and be challenged by Senator Floyd Morris as he comes now to make his presentation. Welcome him, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Master of Sermon, Dr. Christine Hendricks, the Executive Director of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Want to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Wayne Robinson, Senior Deputy Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Paul Chin of DBJ, Mr. Oral Shaw of the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, representing the Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and all other dignitaries, officials, members of the community of persons with disabilities who are present here, and all those who are joining in online. A pleasant good morning to you. It is a signal honor for me to be here to participate in this very important function on financial inclusion. And I do so fully aware that this week is celebrated as Disability Awareness Week and we culminate on Saturday, the 3rd of December, with Disability Awareness Day. And the week and day was designed by the United Nations to promote the participation, inclusion, and non-discrimination of persons with disabilities in the mainstream of society. And so it is a time when we reflect, when we highlight, when we promote the talents and the abilities of persons with disabilities. And I want to commend the team from the Financial Inclusion Unit and of the Bank of Jamaica, the team from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, the team from the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, and all other stakeholders who are intimately involved with this event, because it is very much timely and important. Because in 2006, Jamaica signed and ratified the convention. In 2007, rather, Jamaica signed and ratified the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities that was adopted by the United Nations in 2006. And in 2014, the government enacted the Disabilities Act. And in 2021, the regulations were tabled in Parliament and set the stage for the legislation to be implemented in February of this year. And amongst other things, the legislation frowns upon discrimination against persons with disabilities. And so it is important that an institution such as the Bank of Jamaica, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, along with the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, to promote financial inclusion of persons with disabilities. And when we talk about financial inclusion, we're talking about a system that enables individuals from all spheres of life to participate on an equal basis with others in the financial apparatus of a country. And I start there to point out that for years, persons with disabilities have been excluded from the financial sector. And I want to suggest to you that it is because of the stigma, it is because of the perceptions that individuals have conjured up about persons with disabilities over the years. And these perceptions, these beliefs have been formulated by individuals within society and find its way in various sectors, including the financial sector. So what am I talking about? There are various lenses that we see persons with disabilities in the area of academic studies, disability studies. And one of the areas is that of the charity model of disability, which articulates the view that persons with disabilities have no meaningful contribution to make to society. And as such, they should be confined to their homes or depend on some institution for charity. That model has been inscribed in a number of government policies and legislation over the years, because when you look at how persons with disabilities are treated in the society, it's mainly a welfarist approach that is adopted. And to support the charity model of disability is the medical model of disability, which sees and views persons with disabilities from a medical perspective. And here individuals say that if you have an impairment, and that impairment is caused by a disease, the focus must be on curing the disease to restore that individual to normalcy. Advanced research calls it ableism because it is a set of values, beliefs, and processes that contributes to persons with disabilities or persons with impairment being perceived in a particular way and treated as subhuman because there is an impairment, and because there's an impairment, they are not seen as normal. And because they are not seen as normal, they are treated as subhuman. And these have shaped over the years how persons with disabilities have been treated, and this is reflected in, as I said, a plethora of government policies and programs, and I am not speaking of this specific administration. I'm talking about governments in the plural. And I make sure that I am clear on that because I want it to be understood that it's not just a Jamaican phenomenon. It is a global phenomenon. And it's because it's a global phenomenon why the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities was fashioned. Because the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities is anchored in the social model and the human rights model of disability, which sees persons with disabilities in a more positive light. It recognizes in the social model that it is barriers within the society that restrict the participation of individuals with impairments in society. And they talk about various environmental factors, various social factors, various economic factors, various financial factors. And today we are contemplating the financial factors that restrict the participation of persons with disabilities in society. And then the human rights model views persons with disabilities as rights holders because it recognizes that every single person with a disability is a human being, and consequently they are subject to the rights prescribed in all international treaties relating to human rights. And therefore, the rights and dignity of persons with disabilities must be respected. So when I saw and heard of the webinar being planned today, Deputy Governor, amidst the multitude of activities that I have been tasked to be involved with this week, including leaving bright and early tomorrow morning to travel to Saudi Arabia to participate in a special conference at the invitation of the government of Saudi Arabia, I had to make provision for this seminar because it is a progressive step in including persons with disabilities in the mainstream of Jamaican society. And I am one person who is strengthened with the resolve that until the breath leave my body, I am going to be relentless in my pursuit to ensure that persons with disabilities are included in all areas of Jamaican life, in all areas of Caribbean life, in all areas of the global life, because we have a right to exist as anyone else. And persons must recognize that disability does not equate to inability. I want you to realize that there are some issues that we have to deal with in order to facilitate financial inclusion. And I'm very happy that we have a progressive deputy governor. And I also know the governor and the other deputy governor, Dr. Lewis, who is my brethren from the University of the West Indies. So you have a progressive team down there. And so I know that what I'm about to say will be taken up. You know, we have a banking system that is transitioning from the traditional block and steel into the more technologically based delivery of financial services. But as they do so, I am not seeing the considerations of persons with various types of disabilities in that transition. And I want to give an example. I have gone to a financial institution to open a bank account. And when I reach to the teller to complete the transaction, they gave me a machine. And the machine is a touchscreen machine. But on this machine, there are no voice activations because you have to put in your PIN number in order to activate the account. And there are no raised numbers or inscriptions on the machine to make a blind person know where the 1 is, where the 2 is, where the 3 is, where the 4 is, where the 5 is, where the 6 is, and so on. And so you have to depend on someone else to insert that information for you. If you don't have confidence in that person, then that person would have access to a confidential piece of information that can breach your account. And so I have been saying to the banks, you cannot be transitioning into a technological era. And in that transition, you are excluding a critical population. And that is why, Governor, you have that what I call structural rigidity in terms of a segment of the population accessing financial services. And you gave the data as 73% of Jamaicans. I have no doubt that the population of persons with disabilities dominate the other 27%. And we have to change that. And I am charging the Bank of Jamaica that has the responsibility of supervising all banks to mandate the banks to ensure that in their transition from block and steel to a more technologically based solution, to ensure that persons with disabilities are included. There is no way we should have automatic teller machines in a cluster, and there are not one or two that are equipped with the requisite access features to accommodate persons with various types of disabilities, whether it be they are blind, whether it be they are deaf, whether it be they are physically disabled, whether it be they have an intellectual disability. They must include persons with disabilities. And I am charging the Bank of Jamaica to act on that. And I want to commend the Bank of Jamaica because this is where I see progress taking place, you know. And I am excited, Mrs. Williams, for that because you are putting out a new currency that I understand will be issued in early December. I wish I was going to be here so that I could get the first one. But I am very excited about it because from all indication, I was told that consultation was done with the community of persons with disabilities and the features should be accessible. I don't think when the $5,000 was designed, it was designed with inclusion in mind. But I tell you, it is very easy for me to distinguish the $5,000 over the other currencies, because right in the middle of the currency, the $5,000, there is a differentiation in terms of the texture that you can feel, and you know that blind persons are individuals who go by sensory, by touch. And so we are able to detect easily the 5,000 notes. I understand that there will be some braille inscription on the new notes. And I want to commend the Bank of Jamaica for that progressive step. So when we talk about financial inclusion, that is what we are talking about. And Mr. Chin, DBJ has a suite of products that you offer. And we are looking forward to DBJ providing a line of credit to entrepreneurs in the population of persons with disabilities who desires to go into entrepreneurship. Because if you don't do that, you're not going to get persons with disabilities joining the regular queue to access these facilities. Because it is very difficult for them. They don't have the collateral, they don't have the necessary assets to back them up in terms of taking credit. So some form of creative mechanism have to be put in place to ensure that these individuals are included in the financial sector. And I want to point out, as I come to an end, data in Jamaica is showing up to 91% of the population of persons with disabilities surveyed being unemployed. That was out of a 2015 study. And the information is corroborated by data from ECLAC, the Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, which indicates that between 85 and 90% of the population of persons with disabilities in the region are unemployed. World Bank data is showing up to 80% of the population of persons with disabilities globally are unemployed. So unemployment is an existential threat to the existence of persons with disabilities. And this is because these individuals have been excluded from the labor market, and also because these individuals have been excluded from the financial market. And we have to find ways and means to ensure that these individuals are brought to the center of the financial system and the labor market. And so, Mr. Shaw, I'm expecting that when you go back to the ministry, you are going to ensure that when investors come in, and I'm sorry that I'm not down in Montego Bay, because I would tell them that whilst they come to Jamaica to invest, and no doubt we give them various incentives to come and invest, I am saying no incentive without inclusion of persons with disabilities. Because persons with disabilities are marginalized from the labor market. And if government don't lead in terms of ensuring that there are progressive policies to incorporate these individuals in the labor market, then we are going to have problems. And so I charge you, Mr. Shaw, to pass on that information to the ministry. And I have all the confidence that as we march forward with the Disabilities Act in place, with the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities in place, and with a newly, freshly incorporated Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, we are going to see some transformation in the lives of persons with disabilities. And I am encouraged here today because one of the leading institutions in Jamaica, an institution that has spanned well over 60 years, is leading the charge in terms of promotion of financial inclusion of persons with disabilities through financial literacy and entrepreneurship. And I have no doubt that if others should follow the footsteps of the Bank of Jamaica, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, and the dictates of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, we will see greater financial inclusion and employment of persons with disabilities. I want to wish you a progressive and productive seminar, and wish that we will see more seminars like these throughout the island, as the Deputy Governor has said, and I stand ready to support. God bless you all.
Thank you so very much, Senator Dr. Floyd Morris. I told you that there would be a challenge, but I am heartened because I know that you are up to the task. You're up to the challenge, Deputy Governor. You're up to the challenge, Sir Chin. And the ministry is up to the challenge as well. And so we look forward to all our partners who are here today, who will be sharing, in today's sessions. I know that they too and their institutions are up to the challenge. And so we look forward to working together to ensure that the rights of persons with disabilities to financial inclusion is upheld, and it happens in our lifetime, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. Thank you again, Senator Morris. Okay, thank you. So, all right, so having come to the end of that first segment of our webinar, We're going to be going into the presentations from our partner agencies in this financial inclusion webinar. And we're going to be inviting Miss Karen Hilton, Small Business Financial Specialist in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. She will be presenting on access to finance policy interventions. Welcome, Miss Hilton. I do look forward to hearing what you have to share with us this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hendricks, and good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. In the interest of time, I'm just going to go right into the presentation. All right, so what I'm going to be talking about, first and foremost, is the role that the ministry plays. Okay. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the role that the ministry plays in creating an enabling environment for MSMEs to prosper, right? The ministry plays an integral role in creating an enabling environment for MSMEs through policy and legislative framework. One, we have the MSME and entrepreneurship policy, which Mr. Shaw would have mentioned earlier. And two, we also have a legislation that governs secure transaction, which simply means governs how we lend using collateral. And I'm going to be talking about an initiative, a financial inclusion initiative that the ministry launched with our agency, the Exim Bank, in 2021. So the MSME and entrepreneurship policy was first approved in 2013. We did a limited review or revision rather in 2017, and the final document was approved by Parliament in 2018. The updated policy now has a 5-year implementation plan with 195 activities, right? What was done in the policy was to review the definition of MSMEs, to include social enterprises, recognizing the strategic development, the sustainable development goals and the national financial inclusion strategy, and also identifying implementation partners. The MSME policy has 6 strategic goals. 1 is an enabling business environment. 2, affordable and appropriate financing, which this webinar centers on today. And 3, adequate business development support, a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. 5, social value creation. And 6, embedded cross-cutting issues. Now, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, we set up a national policy implementation committee with several agencies in government, private sector, several partners who all form the committee to govern the implementation of this policy. And that committee meets quarterly throughout the year. All right, so I'm going to speak specifically to goal number 2, right? Affordable and appropriate financing. And this goal, I'm going to talk about how it targets persons with disabilities in particular. So Mr. Shaw mentioned activity 2.4.4, which speaks to information dissemination activities for women, youth, disabled persons should be made available based on financing opportunities of MSMEs and the entrepreneurship policy. Now, another target activity is strengthening the capacity of MSMEs to access funding through the provision of general information on financing options, business development, and capacity building, and increasing awareness. So my colleagues here, I'm sure you'll hear more of that from the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, the company's Office of Jamaica, right? And of course, goal number 6, the target activity for that is collaborating to identifying opportunities, providing support, and facilitating the full inclusion of persons with disabilities. So as a ministry, when we look at all of these activities, initiatives, Deputy Governor Robinson would have mentioned, and also Senator Morris would have mentioned that they can't wait until we have the next webinar or event. So it's based on these specific policy initiatives and interventions that we will be working and continuing to work with our partners to implement and to engage more with the disabled community. So we have that on our to-do list for the next year coming. All right, so one of the major challenges affecting small businesses today is, of course, access to finance. And we acknowledge that disabled persons make up quite a number of MSMEs, right? People with businesses, etc. And we recognize that the capacity to access to finance is an issue, and also having the necessary collateral is a major issue to access to finance. So with that, the ministry has approved the Security Interest in Personal Property Act. That was promulgated in 2013 and operationalized in 2014. What that act does, it facilitates the creation of security interest in personal property for a simple registration process for the recognition of such interest, and to stipulate the rules which govern the priority in which such interests are enforceable. It seeks to address the critical challenge of securing capital by businesses that are often overlooked by financial institutions owing to their lack of traditional collateral such as land or buildings. So in this space, we are aware that most financial institutions, the collateral that they usually request is land, buildings, and as Senator Morris would have said, most persons, especially those in the disabled community, they do not own these form of assets to be able to put up for collateral. They own more, smaller, movable assets that they can put up, right? The SIPO, which is the Security Interest in Personal Property for short, creates a new avenue of funding for entrepreneurs by making possible the acceptance of non-real estate assets for investment. So in essence, the Security Interest in Personal Property Act allows for the use of movable property to be used as collateral to secure a loan. Other benefits of the Act is that it facilitates the use of movable properties such as accounts receivable, inventory, industrial and agricultural equipment, agricultural products, vehicles as collateral for both business and consumer credit, thereby removing obstacles from the path of MSMEs in trying to access loans using movable property. It also provides an avenue for new businesses to form and the expansion of existing ones using more accessible collateral. So far, the ministry has made several advancements in terms of modernizing the secure transaction regime in Jamaica. We have, through technical assistance from the IFC, a member of the World Bank Group, we have completed a legal and operational review of the SIP Act and the Collateral Registry. And there are several recommendations that were made to the SIP Act, which were accepted, and it is now with the Chief Parliamentary Council for review. We have also reviewed and recommended adjustments to the Bank of Jamaica's prudential lending framework, where majority of the recommendations were accepted, and the bank has accepted that and published that in, I think, Melanie, is it 2019? The updated framework was approved. I think so, but it's available on BOJ's website, as a matter of fact. And we have also, with the help of the IFC, developed movable assets-based financial products that can be introduced in the Jamaican financial sector. What the movable assets-based financial products is, it's looking at different types of methodologies for giving loans, right? So we don't necessarily have to lend on buildings, lands, etc. if we consider our receivables to be an asset. So if a business has a receivable, then that can be used to collateralize a loan, right? So there are several different options that we have developed with the IFC, and we have also, in 2019, trained quite a few financial institutions on these movable asset products that some of them are implementing right now. I know that Exim Bank has a receivable financing loan window, and I believe, I'm not sure which one of the commercial banks has it, but I'm pretty sure Exim Bank, which falls under this ministry, has a receivables financing loan window. We have also worked with the International Finance Corporation, IFC, to design an e-commerce secondary market platform for movable assets. I'm going into that in details for a little bit. So a part of the issue for the banks in terms of their reluctance to lend using movable assets is, of course, the risks that comes with that, right? So the banks would normally ask for buildings or land, property, because they feel that that is a more solid collateral to be used in case somebody defaults on their loan, right? However, the banks are saying, if it is that we have a secondary market, because it is easier if an MSME defaults on a loan, for example, then the bank will be able to recover the monies that were lent using a property, because there would be no issue to resell property, etc. However, they're saying, if it is that they are going to be accepting movables, for example, a piece of equipment, a piece of furniture, they are saying they want to ensure that there is an efficient and established secondary market where they can resell these repossessed assets to recoup their loan. So it's really two-pronged. We understand that there's the issue to access to finance, but then the banks are also trying to de-risk their operations. And the secondary market platform, when it comes on stream, that is exactly what that would be doing, de-risking the banks on lending on movable assets. So other initiatives that the ministry has undertaken in terms of access to finance is, in 2019, we capitalized a loan facility, a special loan facility, targeting MSMEs in several sectors: agriculture, manufacturing, agro-processing, catering, select services, hairdressers, barbers, startups, tourism linkages, etc. And that loan is available at a very, very low interest rate of 4.75%, right? And it's available to prospective and existing MSMEs who can access up to $25 million with up to 5 years to repay. So the ministry continues to look at the policy and how we carve out initiatives relating to access to finance, capacity support, training, etc., for the disabled community. Thank you very much.
Okay, so as the senator takes his leave, we will be going into a few question and answers um, for a few minutes based on what Ms. Hilton would have shared. Somebody manning the Zoom chat? Okay, we have someone manning the Zoom chat, and we have persons in the room. So if there are any questions for Ms. Hilton, you can just raise your hands so that we can take the question and she can respond. No questions? Any questions on YouTube or in the Zoom room?
We have a few questions here on YouTube.
Right.
One from Sakina Brown. How can persons with disabilities access the same financial resources seeing they are seen as higher risk?
I think I would keep that question until Mr. Chin from DBJ gives his presentation. However, the straightforward question is accessing a loan is the requirements are the same across the board. There are no specific deterrent for anybody. So whether you're disabled, yes or no, then you should simply go to the nearest financial institution and complete their list of criteria and apply for the loan. However, we do understand, as the senator said, that we need to, as a government, private sector, as partners, we need to look at special loan windows for the disabled community, because we are not all operating on with the same benefits, etc. Right? There are certain disadvantages that obviously persons with disabilities would have. So I think that is something that we as a stakeholder grouping should look at and will look at going forward, and that is to look at establishing a special line of credit specifically for disabled persons.
And another question from Sakina, and I think this also might be answered by Paul Chin as well. Do persons with disabilities need other documents to open bank accounts, seeing they may be unemployed?
Right. I wouldn't have that information, and that is also dependent on the requirements of the particular the particular bank that they would be trying to open that account with. Dr. Hendricks, I'm not sure if you'd be able to speak to the type of documents or documentations that would be required from your community in terms of what the banks would accept from your community in terms of opening an account. I don't know if you'd be able to shed some light on that. If there's anything specific that's that you would use or they would ask for in lieu of certain types of documents, or if it is that they're unemployed and they can't open a bank account, is that what has been the experience?
They're the ones who are making this possible. Thank you, Karen. So for you, would you like to speak, Dr. Hendricks, and then I'll take it from there.
So usually when you're opening a bank account, you would be asking for documents like TRN, your identifiers. You do have some persons who might not have those, simply because some persons might not even have a birth certificate. You do have persons, though, who, though they're not employed, they have their own small businesses and would want to open an account. And so through the NIDS program, right now there is Operation Birthright, to allow persons with disabilities as one of the vulnerable groups in society to be able to get a free birth certificate. So that should not be a hindrance going forward. But whatever other documentation regularly, whatever the challenges are, once we are aware of them, we can make some intervention. I know that for some persons, their caregivers have to do the business on their behalf. And sometimes the banks are not accepting of somebody acting on behalf of the person with the disability. So in that way, there are some challenges.
Okay, thank you. Melanie?
So, good morning again. I'm Melanie Williams. I'm here with the financial inclusion team at Bank of Jamaica. So actually, we have been allowed to really showcase the work which has been done by the government of Jamaica on simplified customer due diligence requirements. And so to the members of the community, persons living with disabilities, and I say that as someone who has relatives who are autistic, so this is very near and very personal to me. When you are seeking to open an account at a financial institution, the amendments we made as a government, as a country, to the Proceeds of Crime Act allow financial institutions now to develop internal policies that make it easier for persons who they deem to be at low risk for money laundering or for financing of terrorism to open accounts. In fact, we had a television ad running on that, and we're going to be amping up more information on that. That's also part of the work that we're doing around the central bank digital currency wallets, okay? What that means is that you can turn up at a financial institution. They do an assessment of you. They'll ask you a number of questions, of course. But if they find that you are low risk, you'll usually be required to present one form of photographic ID, as well as your tax registration number, and you would indicate, you know, how much you intend to place in the account. Let's just use a bank account for want of a better product, or an account at a building society, and then you can then open that account very easily. The essential test is that they need to know that you are who you say you are, and that's where the photographic ID becomes relevant. What we're finding, as Dr. Hendricks had mentioned, and this is where we anticipate NITS is going to be of great help, is that for persons who did not have that base identifier, which is the birth certificate, we will be able to now accelerate work on that, and that will make it easier for you. But you can also have regard to the fact that when you are opening an account with simplified customer due diligence, what we're really concerned about is the source of funds in terms of, are you one of those persons who are benefiting from any welfare programs that the government may be offering, or do you have a set income coming from a very definitive source? That's also important. To the small business owner, they will be treated like any other business owner. We sometimes see, though, Karen, with financial institutions, going back to Dr. Hendricks' point, that depending on the nature of the disability, you may be required to have further documentation. A power of attorney may be required in some cases. In some cases, again, we have the Mental Health Act as well, so there may have to be certain orders that would have been put forward that would empower someone to act on behalf of the individual. So it's the complexity means that as it becomes more complex, the nature of the disability is a case-by-case basis. But we are pushing strongly with making it easier to open accounts through simplified customer due diligence. And in fact, based on a recent survey we did, led by my colleague, Ms. Harriet, who is over there, our monitoring and evaluation officer, we did a survey of all our deposit-taking institutions earlier this year. And we are pleased to report that the majority of them, 8, are at least moving forward in terms of putting that in place. So we expect in another 3 to 4 years that will continue to expand. So I hope that I've answered that question. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melanie.
And one more question. This one is from Zoom, Conrad Harris. Do you currently have a way to track persons with disabilities who are accessing loans? And I'm assuming other basic financial resources.
So in terms of the financial indicators, and I'm also going to hand over to Ms. Harriet, again, our monitoring and evaluation officer. At this point in time, we are not yet tracking that data point, but I know we are improving on our financial inclusion indicators. Ms. Harriet, would you like to speak to the issue? Yes, please feel free to take down your mask. Kato, that may assist. Thank you.
Good afternoon, morning, sorry. Yes, we have indicators in tracking loans, but our focus was not necessarily the persons with disability at this time, but it's something that we're willing to look at.
Thank you. And it goes back to the point that Dr. Hendricks had made in her opening remarks. In fact, the three of us, or I think of us as a mini trinity, we had begun work on this 2 years ago, and we recognize that the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, to be effective, has to consider the needs of this community, persons with disabilities. We have not been tracking data on them. We had been doing a lot of work in understanding the legislation, particularly as it's relevant to financial consumer protection. Now we need to take it to the next level, which means we need to have the data points. We've just been tracking, in keeping with the global Findex, the total percentage of the adult population. But we're going to expand those data points. And in fact, just to point to data on financial inclusion, if you are interested, through the work done by Ms. Harriet and her team, we have quarterly NFIS impact indicators which are published on our website. So feel free to check that out when you have time. Thank you. Back to you, Karen, if I may.
Thank you so much. That was a very good, engaging session, question and answer. Thank you so much again, Ms. Hilton. Our next presentation will come to us from Ms. Melissa Barnett, Manager of Business Advisory Services at the Jamaica Business Development Corporation. She will be speaking to business development, capacity building, and support services. Let's welcome Ms. Barnett. Mrs. Barnett? Barrett, okay.
Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. Okay, great, thank you. All right, I love this vision, especially given what we're talking about this morning. So I wanted to start the presentation with this, our vision, our 2030 vision, the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And when I think of this vision, I do think of every type of person that is in this group. So the disabled groups, the females, males, gender situation, whatever the state is of our Jamaican population, this vision is aligned to all. And this morning, I want to talk about the services of JBDC that is available to all entrepreneurs, including our disabled groups. And we also want to point out that we do have members of our database that are already a part of that group. And we will be delving deeper into how we can be more inclusive in our service offerings. And if you see an opportunity in what I present this morning, that you can invite suggestions on how we can be more inclusive, if you have already started accessing our services, I will be very happy to make note and to see how we can strengthen our efforts to support you. So we serve, I won't delve into our vision and mission too much, but we are all about driving entrepreneurial success. We want to see Jamaican businesses do well here locally and go global. And we help entrepreneurs from concept to market. So if you are not yet an entrepreneur, and I heard the statistics earlier, that over 91% of our disabled group is not employed, and entrepreneurship is an opportunity for you. So if you're at the concept stage, seeing a problem that you can solve, we are there to work it with you in terms of identifying if there is potential and how to organize yourselves to take advantage of that. So our primary aim is to drive the building of resilient businesses. We have a business model that is, in terms of our sectors, we are emphasizing some sectors that our disabled group could focus on, which is basically the sectors stated in our Vision 2030 mission document. It talks about agriculture, agro-processing. It talks about manufacturing, tourism, cultural and creative industries, construction, mining, quarrying, information and communication technology, sports, services to include both include financial, business, and distribution. It's a broad category, but I believe that if you engage us, we can delve deeper into it to show you where your opportunity lies. If you have a business, it may fall in one of those groups, and you might not be taking advantage of all that is available to you. So you can reach out to us for more information based on the opportunities that are embedded in the sectors presented here. And if there are others that you are a part of that's not stated here, we're still available to support you. So our model is very holistic in how we support entrepreneurs. We work with entrepreneurs across all areas, and we are a very big team that is touching on all the areas of business development. So we work with you from our Business Advisory Services Unit, which is the team that I lead, upon entering and onboarding into JBDC, and then being rooted based on our assessment of you and your needs through the organization. So we provide access to markets in terms of those that know about our Things Jamaican store that is at the airport, and it's at Devon House. It's at our head office location on Camp Road, where we sell the products, Jamaican-made products for entrepreneurs. So in terms of our disabled community that have products that you're making that is Jamaican-made, you can reach out to us in terms of accessing services of that nature. We also have our incubator facility on Marcus Garvey Drive, where we have a technical services team that helps you to develop new products and to provide production support in your operation. If you're already operating from another space, we can support you in that way as well. We also provide access to information. There is a project and research development team that helps you to look at what you're offering, help you to delve into feasibility if that is needed, and how to capture insights from the market that you are operating in. And we also provide, or let me say it, facilitate access to finance. So we are not lenders of money, but we are partners with those specialized groups, and we refer you to them based on your readiness. So I heard the conversations earlier about what the banks need of you. If you speak to our business development officers at JBDC, you'll be able to get some guidance as well if you reach out to us. So some of our general services include research, as I said earlier, training, counseling, events, access to markets, access to space, access to finance, and access to partners. And I'll delve a little deeper as I go through this presentation. So you're wondering, how do you get to us, right? So we are located in Kingston at 14 Camp Road, and we're also at Marcus Garvey Drive, but we're also island-wide, and we're also available online. So you can call us at those locations, and we'll tell you how to be onboarded into JBDC virtually, as well as to visit our locations in St. Anne, in St. Thomas, in Westmoreland, in St. James, in Manchester. I don't think I'm missing any. But we also have an expanded network of SBDCs, Small Business Development Centers, at the universities, at RADA, and we also recently started a center at Sagicor. So we are building out our network island-wide to be able to service you. And so through the network, you are onboarded into our system, you are assessed in terms of what your needs are, and then we create a development plan to work with you to help close the gaps. So it might mean just going to a training, it might mean just getting information or leads to start, or to be guided through a particular government agency. So we partner a lot with the company's office, JIPO, all the other players in the industry, so that we're able to route you through to the different entities that you need to support your business start and growth. We also operate this client management process through your stage of readiness. And I want to emphasize, as I said at the start, we are from concept to market and beyond. So we start you off, before you actually register, we have a program called formalization, which emphasizes strengthening the mindset in terms of businesses and how to operate a business, what are the formalization requirements from the company's office, and all the license. If it's something that you are doing that needs to have license and permits, you're given information about that. You're also guided, so you don't just go and start a business, because it does have implications. So you're guided in terms of understanding your concept. So you have developed a concept, and we do an activity called an opportunity assessment that says whether or not this is feasible. So you know, just like any other business, price, less cost must give you some profit in order for you to make some returns. And a lot of times, it's as simple as that that's caused business to fail. And so we walk you through that process so you understand how it means to make a business feasible and understand the size of the market and the potential that's there. And then we help you in terms of testing and validating. So being a part of our Things Jamaican opportunity is a way of testing and validating a product that you have. If you are in our different locations, they'll tell you about how you can build out your model to take advantage of the persons that need the services that you are developing. We also take you through into driving your marketing strategies, working with you in terms of the strategies you put in place to make your to attract more customers, to retain those customers, and to improve your overall performance so that your profitability can be greater and the performance of your business can be improved. And for those that have the potential to accelerate, meaning to take over major market share, we also delve deeper into building strong teams around you, building governance structures around you, helping you to access new forms of capital. So not just loan capital, but equity capital from angel investors and others. And we also emphasize internationalization, looking at what it means if your business is doing so well to go overseas. And internationalization, I don't want you to think about it as something that is big, that you cannot be a part of. In the service industry, there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are taking advantage of selling their services online and being able to attract exports for Jamaica. So I want you to delve deeper into what the opportunities exist in the market space so that we can work with you. Even if you're at the concept stage and if you're further along, we can take you along the continuum. We understand, and we want our entrepreneurs to understand, that there are many different sides to a business, and all business have a standard framework that they work with, understanding the market, understanding how to develop a strategy to penetrate that market, meaning how to get more customers, how to design a product and solution that persons are interested in, and how to market that solution, and to be able to build a community of interested consumers or buyers of your product so that you are able to drive the performance of your business. So when we engage you, we use various technologies, our internal assessment tools, as well as we work very closely with an international tool called Growth Wheel that we take you through in terms of helping you to close the gaps that are in your business, right? Oh, it's very not so visible. But through our programs, we work a lot with the partners. So we, as I said earlier, we have the universities that are a part of our SBDC network, and we recently concluded our accelerator program, which saw us having over 12 interns from the university participating, supporting the entrepreneurs. So you don't have a team, but you need some additional support. You have the internship program there to support you. And we work along with HEART, who also have access to giving entrepreneurs staff to work with them in terms of supporting their businesses. There's also an opportunity to get an advisory panel depending on where your business is at and if you need the support of specialists. So those that are in strategy, those that are in finance, those that are in legal, we'll build a team around you to help you to see the needs that you require to grow and to be guided on what you need to do in that area. We also work a lot with experienced entrepreneurs. So those who have done it and have done well are able to give back in terms of their time. So there's a lot of one-on-one sessions that entrepreneurs are able to get with those experienced entrepreneurs. And we also work very closely with the Development Bank of Jamaica in terms of facilitating access to grants, consulting grants, to support clients getting assistance to prepare business plans, to prepare operations plan, marketing plans, whatever you need to strengthen your ability to attract and grow your market. We are here to find the partners and give you that support. And it extends to financing, as I said earlier. We look for grant opportunity right now. DBJ has the Ignite program, which is open, and I know that when Mr. Chin gets here, he'll tell you more about it. It's open now in terms of reaching out to us to help you prepare your concept documents to get the support you need. It's grant up to 7 million, 3 to 7 million within that group. And we refer you to other loan and equity partners pitching for investment so that we can support your growth. So as I said earlier, we're not just in Kingston, we're island-wide and we have a network. So we are in Kingston and St. Andrew, Manchester, that supports St. Elizabeth. So we are making sure that all parishes are supported. We're physically in Westmoreland, supporting Hanover. We're in St. James, supporting Trelawney, St. Anne, supporting St. Mary, St. Thomas, supporting Portland, and we support St. Catherine and Clarendon virtually at this time, but we'll do shortly. In terms of our external SBDCs, we currently have RADA, we have the Northern Caribbean University in Manchester, we have the University of Technology, we have Edna Manley, College of Visual and Performing Arts, we have College of Agriculture, Science and Education, all the way out there in Portland. We have the University of Technology, and we recently added Sagicor Business Center, and we're looking to operationalize our agreements with CMU and UWI in terms of accessing business development services. And we expect that these centers will become far, far more active in the coming year, and we're looking into our database of disabled to see we have the ability to do surveys online to get you to participate in surveys so that we can better serve you. So we'll try to get more information on the space, and you can also reach out to us if there's any gap in what we're doing in servicing you, okay? Thank you very much. Open to questions. No, the services of JBDC are basically free, so you are assessed and counseled for free. However, some of the services in terms of accessing partner services, you may have to pay an additional fee. But generally, any fee that is charged is minimal. So we have training sessions, but it's minimal that's charged at that level. But in terms of onboarding, counseling, and assessment, those services are free.
It's truly heartwarming to see how the JBDC has expanded in terms of its services. And I know, based on what you have outlined, that persons with disabilities sometimes, like other small business owners, they need that hand-holding, that capacity building, and, working with them to make sure that business works, working through, their own the concept that they have in their minds to bring everything to fruition. So we certainly look forward to greater partnership, knocking on JBDC's door, because I know that they are up to the challenge that the Senator spoke about this morning. We have worked together in the past, and I know that with this expansion, we can certainly benefit, and our community will certainly be the better for it. Great, we look forward. Do we have any questions online? No questions online. Okay, so we have a couple more presentations. And so at this time, thank you so very much, Ms. Barrett. We're pleased to hear how the JBDC can support persons with disabilities. Mrs. Yolande Rowe Fender, Acting Compliance Manager of COJ, is our next presenter, talking with us on business registration and company incorporation. So it is a company office of Jamaica. And so Mrs. Yolande Rowe Fender, will be coming to speak with us on how we can register our business. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. I have to make a correction before my manager kills me. I was the acting compliance manager at the time when we agreed to participate, but I'm back in my substantive post, which is compliance supervisor, as you can see right there. All right? All right, so today I'm going to be speaking about the understanding the type of entities that can be registered with the Companies Office of Jamaica. And we're talking about sole proprietorships operating under a business name, partnerships operating under a business name, or the incorporation of a company, as well as reasons for registering and the advantages of registering each entity. So let's talk about what a sole proprietorship is. A sole proprietorship, and persons usually say they have a company when what they have sometimes is a business name, which is either a sole proprietorship or a partnership. Some persons will register a sole proprietorship or a partnership that doesn't have the word limited register on it, because that is only used by a company, and then somewhere along the line, you see them tack on the word limited at the end of it, which is illegal and attracts a fine of $100,000 if you find you. So, what is a sole proprietorship? It is, as it says, sole is a commercial enterprise owned by one person, and this can be an individual or a company. A partnership is a commercial enterprise owned by at least 2 persons to a maximum of 20. And this is also consists of individuals as well as companies. And a company is an entity which is formed and registered under the Companies Act of Jamaica. So there's a difference. You have a business name, which is just simply someone, an individual or a company operating under a name, and then you have a limited company. So what are they? So the general partnership, they are both businesses, and there are certain characteristics that they have in common. So there's no separate legal status if you have a partnership or a sole proprietorship. Neither entity is viewed as a separate legal person, and as such does not have the benefit that come with such a status, such as entering into contracts, owning land in the name of the entity. They cannot own assets and liabilities. This flows directly from the lack of a legal personality. Neither entity can own assets or liabilities. These are done in the name of the individuals. All assets and liabilities are in the name of the owners or the partners. Where persons are offering services, they're offering a service in a name that is not their own name, they don't need to register. But once you decide that, all right, I'm going to start a business in a name, let's say John's grocery shop. Once you decide that you're going to operate, you're offering a service, not John's grocery shop, John's accounting services. That's a service. So you will have to register that name. But if you're just John the accountant, you don't need to register that name. But once you are trading, once you're selling something, you're required to register that name, register your business and give it a name. So once you're offering a service in your own name, no registration is required. But once you decide that you're going to give it a name, or if you're trading, you are required to register that entity. So what are the features of the sole proprietorship? It is used by businesses that can be operated by one person, and usually this is a sole proprietor. The creation and the formation of sole proprietor is informal. It is a commercial vehicle and is largely unregulated and therefore cheaper to operate in terms of the registration fees associated with a partnership or a sole proprietorship. The limited financing, so it is financed by the owner or debt financing through a financial institution. It cannot be financed like a company through equity financing. So the features of a general partnership. It is personal in nature due to the trust and confidence that partners place in each other. and the law imposes a fiduciary responsibility on partners in favor of each other. There is generally a maximum of 20 partners that can be admitted to the partnership, and this is with the exception of attorneys, accountants, and other professional bodies. Without a management agreement, all partners are entitled to manage the business. It's an agency relationship, means that one partner can unilaterally enter into a contract in the usual course of the partnership business that binds the entire general partnership. Means that partnership is not something that you take lightly and you just jump into it with any and everybody. Because we know that some persons are not that honest, and as such, they can go into contracts that you are now, both of you or the partners are bound by. A general partnership, especially professional ones, are sometimes referred to as firms, such as the accountants and the attorneys. If a general partnership exceeds the maximum number of partners, it will have to be converted to a company. The features of a company. Companies limited by share are of a profit-making business, and there you have companies that are limited by guarantee, and these are the non-profit entities. So a company is a legal and separate person and apart from its members. The liability of a member is limited to the amount of unpaid shares or the guaranteed amount for the company that is limited by guarantee. Now, the company offers perpetual succession, unlike a business name. With a business name, the business dies with the partner, with the owner. With a company, you're offered perpetual succession. The assets and liabilities can accrue to the company and not to the owners or members. What are the advantages of incorporating a company as opposed to a business name? Possibility of tax exemptions for companies limited by guarantee without a share capital, high level of accountability within the governance structure. It is highly regulated, so low chance of mismanagement or corruption. The company is its own legal person, and as such, most, not all, legal actions against it will not impact the shareholders. As I did say, most, some. It doesn't mean that you are eliminated from liability. It will protect the entity's name. The Companies Act and rules affords protection to names already on the register. Certain benefits are awarded by banks and other financial institutions to entities that are incorporated. So you're going to decide, you have to decide which one to choose, whether when you're setting up the entity. And there are factors to consider. Do you require the entity to have a separate legal personality from the owner? What is the purpose of your entity? What is it that you're going to do in the business? Are you going to be making a profit or not? And by profit, meaning that whether you're going to do a non-profit or you're going to be a profitable company with limited liability, it doesn't mean that you're operating and you're just not making a profit at this time. How large do you want the entity to be? What's your future plan for the business or the company? What tax liability level can you manage? How will your entity be managed? Will numerous statutory obligations impede your operations? The ease and cost of the formation of the entity. Business name is $2,500. A company incorporation is $24,500. So the costs that are associated is something that you will have to consider. Governance and administrative requirements of the entity, the level of risk associated with the type of entity that you're registering, your short, medium, and long-term outlook. Some persons register a business name when they're just starting, and maybe a year or two or even a few months down the road, they decide that they need to incorporate a company. It is dependent entirely on the individual. The intellectual property considerations, asset protections and partitioning considerations, as well as estate planning considerations. When you die, what happens to your business? There are times when persons die and the business just goes with them. What plans do you have in place to pass your operational entity onto the members of your family? And also you consider the licensing requirements, because when you're doing a business name, There are some operations that require a license. Hairdressers need their licenses from a parish council. Hairdressers and barbers require licenses. Pharmacists require to have their licenses when they're doing registration. Engineers need to have their registration, their licenses, producing these when they come in to register with us. So those are the things that needs to be considered when you're deciding to choose your entity. So what are the documents that are required? To register registration by a sole trader, partnership, registration of business name by company, you need the BRF1. This is just the one single form. Work permit is required for non-CARICOM nationals, and they must submit a permit from the Ministry of Labor indicating that he or she is allowed to engage in business in Jamaica. TRN for all applicants, verification of address of the applicant in their own name, and this is either utility bill, driver's license, national voter's ID, or a statutory declaration. And these are forms that are signed by Justice of the Peace and are available on our website. A copy of a valid government issue identification. The original is needed for verification. And a proof of certification. It is not applicable to all businesses, and as I said, for salons, medical or legal professionals, engineers, and the pest control persons. The cost for registration is $2,500 for sole proprietorship and partnerships of 2 to 5 partners. For partnership of 6 to 20 partners, it's $5,000. And if you have a branch business, it's an additional $1,000. And for a business name that is being registered by a company, it's $3,000. Now, if you want to access our services quicker, you need to speed things up, you can get same-day registration for your business at an additional cost of $3,000, or for next day for an additional $1,500. For your incorporation, the cost of incorporation is $24,000, and the forms may be downloaded from our website or can be purchased. So the BRF is free, that's the business registration form. The super form, that is free, but the articles of incorporation, that can be accessed at our office for a cost of $200 or downloaded from our website. Same day registration is available at a cost of $6,000, and next day is $3,000. Now, when you're registered, what do? You'll get a certificate. For a business name, a sole proprietorship or a partnership, you'll get a business name certificate, and that certificate expires in 3 years. So at the end of the 3 years, it does not mean that your business has expired. It just means that the certificate has expired, and that means that you'll need to either renew it in the next 3 years, or if you're no longer in operation, that you close it. If you have made any changes to the business, you're changing your address, you're changing what you're doing, you're changing your personal information, you're required to provide us with that information. So as I said, if you're no longer in business, what do? You come in and close it. You don't leave it hanging. Because just as you got a birth certificate for the business, you need to come in and do the right thing and close it. Because that renewal for 3 years, it accrues. So, 3 years, 3,500, next 3 years, $7,000, and that is money that, you really don't want to be giving. I mean, we want it, we won't say no, but we would prefer if you do the right thing and close it. So anybody in here have any business that them have registered long time and need to come in and close? Anybody? All right, you can speak to me afterwards. All right, so with a company, what's next? You're required to file your annual return, if you make changes to your directors, to your registered office, the change of secretary, you need to advise us of these changes within 14 days. Now, I just spoke about the annual return. An annual return, so it's different from the one that is filed with the tax office. And this is an informational return. It's not a financial return. It just confirms the information that you would have given to us when you are incorporating the company. Now, if there are any changes to your information that you're providing, that is when we would ask for the change documents. So that annual return, the cost of it is $5,000 for a company limited by shares, and for a company limited by guarantees, $2,000. But we have a little something. There's a grace period of 28 days, and at the expiration of that 28 days, a penalty of $100 per day kick in. So, you know, that 5,000 or 2,000 annual return can now quickly move you to 15,000, 12,000, or if you allow it, you just forget about it. I mean, we just saw some persons coming in when we were on our mobile last week, $60,000, and that's a $5,000 return, one $5,000 return, and you allow it to accumulate penalties because once the company is on the register, you have incorporated it. It doesn't die unless you come in and take it off. So it stays there accumulating all this money. So persons have to think about what it is that they're doing when they're choosing the entity, the vehicle that they're going to be operating with. Now, if you're no longer in operation, I would suggest that you close the company, you have the company removed from the register. For anybody who's listening under the sound of my voice, we have an amnesty going on. So if you have a company that you incorporated from anytime, we see some 1980s, 1990s, whenever it is, and you're no longer operating, you'd never even used the company, this is an opportune time for you to come in and have that company removed from a minimal amount of $7,500, and for a business name, it's $4,100. All you're required to do for the company is a letter signed by one director and a statutory declaration that must be witnessed by a justice of the peace. And you just come in and, stop accruing, because guess what? Once you incorporate it on the register and you're accumulating all these penalties throughout the year. So now is an opportune time, and you have until January 31st to come in and access this removal. So, or documents can be submitted. New companies and new business names may be submitted. At any of our offices, Kingston head office, or at the Montego Bay location. Or you may also use our partners, the JBDC, at any of their satellite offices that you can submit your documentation. Or if you can follow our mobile, we have a bi-monthly mobile team that goes around different parishes. We were in St. Catherine last month, and come January, we're going to be in central Jamaica. So persons can use our services there. Our website also facilitates requests for certified copies of documents filed, as well as letters of good standing. And there endeth today's lesson. Do you have any questions for me? I was hoping that there was none, but
Yes, we do.
I was wishful thinking.
Yes, we do online. Hold on.
Mike is coming to
on YouTube. From
somebody is asking.
Okay, so I was asking, in terms of a company name. So I'm thinking of establishing a business, and I come to your establishment. In terms of the name, and is there a copyright as it relates to the business name?
Okay, so once a name is already registered, you cannot register a name that is similar to it or the same as. So are we talking about phonetics? So if it's close to it, so it can't be too similar to one that's already on the register.
What about the logo?
Logo would be Jamaica Intellectual Property Office,
okay,
and not us.
Okay. Devonte Dennis online on YouTube. I started a business as a partnership, but that did not work out. How can I take the other name off the documents?
So that would require a closure of the business name, and both partners would need to sign that form. It's a BN6 form that can be downloaded from the website, or you can come in to the office and collect it. The cost, so if the certificate has not expired, it's $600 for closure. If it has expired, it's $4,100 for closure. When you have now closed the business, you can now do a new registration as a sole proprietor.
Okay, just as a follow-up question, you could just re-register the business in the same name?
Yes,
as you
can.
just closed?
Once there's no other name like that on the register, then you could.
All right, thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm supposed to have a sole proprietor register, but the 3-year pass, do you attract a fee?
Yes, renewal cost is $2,500, and because it has expired, it's $1,000, and that's for each 3-year period. So if it expired, when did it expire? You're going to have to tell me at some point.
Just say, for instance, it expired like 2-year or 3-year, like that.
All right, so if it expired, all right, so we're now in 2022.
Yeah.
If it expired, let's say 2019,
Yeah.
you would have had to pay that $3,500, and let's say it expired November again, you'd have to pay another $3,500, so that would now be $7,000.
Very not nice. Very not nice.
Right?
Not nice.
But
Okay, thank you.
You're going to renew it or are you going to close it? You still operating?
Yes, it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, only for closures. Only for
So
closures.
there's no reduced cost for operating
For
business?
renewal, unfortunately, not at this time. We don't know what the future may hold, but not right now. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question? Going once, twice? Okay. Any online? No? Thank you very much for having me.
That was Mrs. Ro Fender talking to us about registering companies. And I'm sure as we progress and as persons with disabilities, expand in their business and, settle, I'm sure they will consider registering. We do encourage persons who who receive the economic empowerment grants from the council to register their companies, just to ensure that stability and to ensure that if it is that at some point maybe they have a name that they call the business already, somebody would not have registered that name. So when, they're calling their business that name, they hear that they are in breach, So I'm sure that we will get the company's office to maybe speak with our entrepreneurs in a closer setting, to break down the information some more. You can come to register them too. Okay. So is it that you have to be operating for a certain time before you register once you begin? Okay. So that would be part of the JBDC and the companies together assisting. Awesome. All right, we're coming down nicely. Information is really flowing, and I'm sure our persons are benefiting greatly. And so Miss Melanie Williams, coordinator of the National Financial Inclusion Secretariat here at the Bank of Jamaica, will be our next presenter, and she will be speaking about promoting financial literacy and financial consumer protection. And I'm sure this is very important to our people as well. Thank you. Let us welcome Miss Williams as she comes.
So good afternoon to both our online audience and members who are here with us. We are recovering from COVID, so we're getting back to a kind of new normal. And we want to say thank you. This webinar has been a long time in coming. We have been working on this for 2 years, and we're really here to share with you how we have evolved in the understanding of what financial inclusion means and what it means to actually build an inclusive economy. So let's get right into it. So Bank of Jamaica, the Bank of Jamaica, we want to first of all indicate that the expressions, the opinions, whatever is expressed in this presentation actually represents my views exclusively and do not necessarily represent the views of the governor, of the board of directors, of our officers or employees. It's our standard legalese, and forgive me because I am a lawyer, so we do everything by the book. but it's important. If you need independent legal advice, please obtain it. We've had some questions so far, and there are a number of elements that really seek to protect persons living with disabilities coming out of the Disabilities Act, as well as other legislation. Obtain that independent legal advice. Of course, if you have questions on any of the entities that Bank of Jamaica regulates, we will share with you the information where you can send those questions to us so we can help you with that. So what does Bank of Jamaica do? Now, Bank of Jamaica is in the media all the time. The first and most important thing that everyone always thinks of is that we issue monetary policy, which just basically means that we take all reasonable steps in terms of issuing economic policies that allow our economy to function properly. We are interested in financial stability, in the stability of the financial system, and we're also very keenly interested in encouraging the development of business through micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises, which is why Senator Morris was such an important figure today. He's an entrepreneur, and he's also a member of this community. We also, very importantly, issue currency. You would have been hearing about our central bank digital currency, JAMDEX, but that's just the latest innovation. As my colleague, our communications officer, Karen Stewart, always reminds me, we've been doing this for a while. So we've been issuing banknotes with special features for persons who are visually impaired. We also issue coins, as you're aware. We're now coming into the digital age. And as we enter into this digital space, we are interested and keen to make sure that we remain as inclusive as possible. We regulate. We regulate our banks, our commercial banks. We regulate merchant banks. Regulate building societies. We have oversight of our remittance service providers. We also have oversight of any entity seeking to engage in payment solutions or payment service providers, and of course our cambios. So there's a range of entities that we regulate, and we're going to be expanding that. Most recently, we've added the microcredit institutions, and you can look on our website very specifically under our financial system regulation tab to find out more information on microcredit institutions. Why do I say microcredit? Because many, we've heard the statistic, 91% of the population of this community is unemployed. And that's a serious failing on our part as a country, because there are opportunities, as our last presenter has made it clear to you, for you to get your business registered. And I'm not going to steal the thunder of Mr. Chin when he comes up to share with you, but there are opportunities for you to actually develop independence, economic empowerment through engaging in your business. And we have to move as a society beyond the concept that it is a disability means in one aspect, which is just an impairment in a particular sense. That means everything that the individual has to offer should be overlooked. That is simply not accurate. Persons bring their creativity, their knowledge, their wisdom. So feel free to engage in developing your own businesses, because empowerment of the self economically is what will allow you to actually transform yourself. And that's what we're about here by sharing with you knowledge on finance. So national financial inclusion strategy, as you've heard throughout this whole process, it's about building an inclusive economy. We need all members, all adult citizens to be able to participate. They need equal, they're entitled to, it's a constitutional right. You're entitled to equal access to information on financial services, as well as getting access to the services you need to develop your own financial wealth building process and prospects, and also making sure that you are able to better plan for your own needs throughout your life. We understand that each individual has different needs as they go on, and some of us experience disabilities in different settings. And we also have children to provide for. Many people forget that persons with disabilities are family members, and they also have to be taking care of other persons. So it's important that we start to think in a more inclusive way. That's what the National Financial Inclusion Strategy is all about, making sure that there is equal access to the information you need about financial services, as well as the financial services themselves. We're talking about payments, we're talking about banking services, services through your credit unions, and of course, just generally making sure that you have the appropriate legal consumer protection mechanisms in play. And you'll be hearing a lot about what the Minister of Finance has been talking about in terms of consumer protection. Please continue to watch that space with the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, as well as Bank of Jamaica on that. So we launched our strategy in 2017, and we have revised our strategy in 2021 to focus on a number of key areas. And really, what we are really trying to emphasize is financial literacy, financial consumer protection, MSME finance, as well as the use of digital payments and banking services, hence the discussions here. And as we go through, you're going to see a lot more coming out about, engagement around financial consumer protection. Feel free to raise the concerns that you have had in terms of your own experiences when engaging with regulated financial institutions that are supervised by Bank of Jamaica. You will recall that Senator Morris made the point that having reached the teller, he then had to essentially divulge sensitive, confidential information regarding his account to a third party. That is something we certainly don't want to see happening going forward. And we know some of our financial institutions have started the process of upgrading and improving themselves, making sure that whether it's signage by the elevator or even in terms of engagement with a customer service representative, there are multiple avenues to make sure the information is disseminated in the appropriate way, depending on the disability or impairment being experienced. We expect that to be expanded. So these are our goals and objectives. Financial access. Everyone must have access to the financial services they need. Improving usage of financial services. You would have heard Senior Deputy Governor mention, Dr. Robinson mentioned, that only 49% of our adult population has either a debit card or a credit card. When you deep dive into the statistics, they're more worrisome. We're not seeing, as we would like, the consistent use of banking services that would allow you to benefit from, for example, from deposit insurance, which is offered by the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation. If you save under your mattress because you're simply having a challenge in opening an account as a person with a disability, that puts you at risk of theft, of, God forbid, fire, of any number of ailments that can attack your life savings, and you need your money. You need your money for your medications, you need your money to be able to just generally engage in business, to be able to move, to get on that bus, to get in that taxi, to be able to do whatever you need to do. You can't have your money at risk. Your money is essential for your independence. Also, we're looking at financial resilience, long-term, old people money, retirement products. This is where our partner Financial Services Commission comes in. And we're looking at encouraging, as I said, MSMEs, micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. And microcredit institutions can often provide a mechanism through which financing can be provided for your MSME if you choose to actually establish one for yourself. Responsible finance, consumer protection, financial literacy. All of these are being underpinned by having the appropriate legislation in place and policies. So even when it comes to a question of, for example, making sure that you have access to getting a loan, the questions that will be asked of you. Remember, fundamentally under the Disabilities Act, there is a principle that you should not be discriminated against. You're entitled to that information. It's very important that you're aware of your rights. And we anticipate that there will be more work that will be done to greater sensitize the public, both the financial institutions themselves, as well as our citizens, about what their rights are, the legal protections are under the Disabilities Act. Now, financial literacy for persons living with disabilities. Bank of Jamaica has also had to grapple with this as we disseminate financial literacy content. We have been using a range of mediums or channels to disseminate information. We have been using radio, television, and print media, as well as social media. Our social media, and then when you come to that later on in the slides, you'll see that we use captions, closed captions, because that enables information to be disseminated, but we need more. We need to diversify, as mentioned by Senator Morris, having voice apps. All of these elements are factors that we are considering. Our role is to financially educate and empower every single Jamaican citizen so that they know what their rights are as a financial service consumer, as well as know what their responsibilities are. For example, you have to know what the contract is saying before either you or your authorized representative signs that contract on your behalf, for example. It's very important. And we need you to have the ability to engage with the financial institutions, to ask the questions, the correct questions that meet your needs. Always remember, if you're giving your money to a financial institution, they have a duty of care to you. They must answer your questions. If you have a concern, we have actually made amendments. Legislative provisions are in place to enable the customer service function to be able to receive complaints, handle those complaints, and address them in a timely fashion. And we can deep dive into that throughout the presentation or after, if you have questions. We have a 360-degree approach. We educate, we protect you, and we regulate the financial institutions and hold them accountable. But because this is a partnership, we also seek to bring them to the table to understand where their gaps may be and what they want to achieve. Because several of our financial institutions actually want to do more to engage with and interact with their citizens because they recognize the need to keep their customers happy and to expand their customer network. See yourself as a very powerful lobby group and begin those discussions. And I know Dr. Hendricks will be spearheading that. She has raised some of the concerns with us here at Bank of Jamaica, and more will be done. This is just the first, we anticipate, of several conversations on that. Because the financial institutions need to have you on board with them, and they want you on board. So feel free, this is a safe space within which we can have those discussions. This is just a snap, it's very colorful, but you'll get the slide deck after. But let me just quickly tell you what we have. So we have on radio a program called Under the Law. We also have our financial literacy tips. And we tend to utilize the top 4 radio stations in terms of listenership to get our message out there via radio. In addition, we are in The Star, we are in BOJ Corner, and we publish frequently asked questions. And those you will find in all of our nationally circulated newspapers. We're going to actually restart the publication of frequently asked questions on banking services so that you know what to expect. Okay? Simplified customer due diligence. You would have heard the question being asked earlier about how to open accounts. And we actually have a video campaign that we have been running on and off since June, and we're going to be starting back with that again, going into the first quarter of next year. So look out for that information, closed captions as well. So for persons who have hearing impediments, you will still be able to follow the concepts and understand what documents are expected of you when you open an account. The indicators I mentioned, my colleague, Ms. Harriet, we have on our website the National Financial Inclusion impact indicators that measure the extent to which we are achieving financial inclusion. We look at mortgages, we look at access to loans, we look at elements such as whether or not a person is able to actually, how do I put this diplomatically? Actually able to engage with the financial institution and have resolution of complaints. That is also something that we are looking to expand our indicators to capture complaints data as well. And we are actively improving our data set through surveys, which is why we can speak from an informed position about what is working and what is not. So BOJ Real Talk. BOJ Real Talk is really fun, it's animated, and a big part of what we do in financial inclusion is that we seek to portray ourselves as a Jamaican population. So we're using our pato in our language for BOJ Real Talk. We're using people who look like us. Out of many one people, all people are represented. And this, an idea just comes to me, and I think it would be great to even have a competition about who would represent and their multiplicity of characters that we can develop that would represent persons living with disabilities, because I think that needs to happen. People need to see themselves to connect to the message, and that's what we seek to do with BOJ Real Talk. You can find us on our social media platforms. You just go on to YouTube, for example, or Twitter at Central Bank JA. And this is an example. I'm just going to see if I can play the video briefly. I skipped over it. Let me see. Well, unfortunately, I don't know if my team at the back can I'm going to go back to that other slide. See if you can click it for me, just to begin. The video, are you able to, from your end? Just signal to me if you can. Because I'm jumping too fast ahead. Just bear with us for a few minutes. Technology is everything, yeah? No, it seems that, okay, so there's a video embedded in this. So when I come back down to the council, we'll actually play that video for you because it has the closed captions, and I wanted to share that with you so you'd understand what we're doing in BOJ Real Talk. But this is actually about account opening. And that video will show you that what's required to open an account is a TRN, your photo ID, and source of funds. Those are the 3 elements. In fact, this story actually featured a mother and a son, and because the child was a student, it was a student ID, his mom's ID, as well as having source of funds, because his dad was overseas working in New York and sending back remittances. Real life situations that we deal with every day. So we really are putting forward explanations around experiences that we have as Jamaican people. So check out our YouTube page and you can actually watch that video and others. You can learn more about Know Your Customer. We have a joke there as to what Know Your Customer means and why we need to do it. It's not that people are actually trying to dig through all of your past, and you no longer need a recommendation from the Lord himself. As I've said, we have actually enacted amendments in 2019 to the Proceeds of Crime Act to make it easier for you to open accounts. This is an example about our frequently asked questions. Now, this is just question 7. We have 19 that we had published earlier this year. We're going to republish them again, just to reinforce the message and start with a new series of questions. And you can understand how we, for example, in the case of electronic transfers between 2 banks, how it actually works and what to expect. Which means you can take the frequently asked questions and go to your financial service provider, your commercial bank, and say, this is what Bank of Jamaica says must happen. What you doing? Why is this not working the way that they say it must work? That's what we're seeking to do, empowering consumers. Okay, our games, customer due diligence. Again, all a part of the account opening process. This is in the STAR. We've gotten quite a few fun responses from teachers and from students themselves because we do crosswords, we do word searches. We're actually now, modifying a new set of games that are going to be coming out whereby we do riddles. So we're just trying to engage with our children from young so that they're no longer intimidated when they hear words like bonds, securities, stocks, yield. What does that mean? Because by the time they meet Mr. Chin, the eyes are glazed over and they have no idea what you're talking about. And I know I felt like that. As an attorney at law, I did accounts when I was in Norman Manley Law School. And you know what happens to lawyers when they do not handle money correctly. Them go to prison and them get disbarred. We need to educate our children from young so that they understand that the management of money is important. It's a life skill. Okay, it's not just about math. It's about empowering, managing your money, managing your relationships with your money, and therefore protecting yourself and your identity as a financial and economic citizen. Under the law, we have a program that's going to start airing again in December. We tend to do it once a quarter. Mr. Ed Wallace is a key part of what we do. I must really acknowledge the work of the Financial Institution Supervisory Division or Financial Markets Infrastructure Division because they partner with us closely to develop these scripts. And anybody who knows the program under the law knows it's all about the Jamaican reality. We highlight different aspects of our laws. We look at the Banking Services Act. We will look at the Payment Clearing and Settlements Act, which deals with digital payments. We will look at the Bank of Jamaica Act and tell you how we protect you in terms of having oversight of all regulated financial institutions. We even touch on things like fintech, issues to do with opening accounts. So listen to that. It's on major radio stations such as Mellow, and we are also on RJR. We are on Love. We are on Power 106. And so you get that, and they tend to air twice a day. So when you're on the bus, when you're in your car, wherever you are, just listen to that message, and it can really pass information that's useful to you. So you notice we're dealing with the written word for persons who are not visually impaired, as well as making sure we have radio messages for persons who do not have hearing impediments. We're trying to meet all aspects of our people because we're out of many one. Financial literacy radio tips, we talk about everything from credit cards. So you'll use a credit card and you'll never hear the term APR. Again, going back to what Kieran had reminded me, what does that even mean? The annual percentage rate, what does that mean? And why is it's 50%? And why do I have to pay off in full? And what happens if you're only making the minimum payment? These are conversations that we have that not necessarily other entities would have because we want you to choose for yourself what you want. How you can best use the financial services and products that are out there to benefit yourself, for example. We also have discussions around budgeting, creating a budget. I am the first to admit, even as a National Financial Inclusion Coordinator, that I struggle with maintaining my budget. The emotional decisions to buy something, the shoes, the clothes, the nails. Yes, we all like to look fabulous, but people, my people, we need to save for long term. And we need to be able to put aside money and invest money so that we can meet the pressures, inflationary pressures, so that in 7 to 8 years' time, we are still able to have the value of that dollar, being able to purchase what we need. So budgeting is a critical discussion. Savings through a regulated financial institution, absolutely important. This is, again, just an example of what we do on radio. Then, of course, we ask you, as financial consumers, to always know what you're getting into. When you enter into a relationship with a financial institution, you're entering into a type of marriage. I am married to a particular bank from the age of 12. It was a child marriage. They came in. It was illegal if it had been a real marriage. But it's the best bank ever. I will not disclose which one it is to you. But I will never leave that bank. I've had their agents call because I'm afraid like puss. Because there are more banks coming in and competing for your services. Make sure your bank treats you like a good spouse. That's what my bank does for me. That's very important. So the moment they see a strange transaction, because I've set up alerts, they contact me. They let me know. You can get alerts via email. You can get it, I believe, by text messages. Just be aware. Know what's happening with your money, because this is, you know how hard you work for your money. You cannot afford to have anybody just come in and thief your money. So your relationship with your financial service provider is critical. So when you're first beginning to, how shall we say, court each other, or they're courting you, make sure you read the fine print, and read the fine print, of course, is in quotation marks. Ask the relevant questions. You want to find out, for example, if you're having a savings account. What interest should I expect on my savings account? What types of fees are you going to be charging for the different transactions I hope to do, be it taking out money at an ATM or going into the teller, into the bank itself to engage with the teller? What does that mean for me? You need to understand how your account works. Am I entitled to a debit card with this account? What does it mean when I start to build up my financial profile with you? Will I be eligible for a credit card based on my financial behavior? These are questions you have the right to know. Don't let anybody mislead you into thinking that just because you have a disability in one aspect of your life, that somehow when it comes to finance, you cannot be a PhD graduate like Dr. Robinson. It's your money. You must have a PhD in terms of handling and protecting your money, because you are the first line of defense, and your financial service provider has a duty of care to you. It's a contractual relationship between you and the financial service provider. So ask the questions. You are entitled to get the information up front. Know your rights as a consumer. If you see something strange happening, if, for example, you had a loan and it had a particular interest rate for repayments, and all of a sudden you notice that it's leaped and nobody told you anything beforehand, you have the right to ask the question, what happened? You're supposed to get prior notice of any changes in interest rates, unless in the actual contract themselves, they had pegged the interest rate to a known international rate. You hear things like LIBOR and that type of thing, or a treasury bill rate. So you have to really ask the questions, and their customer service representatives are trained and are able to answer those questions. So don't hesitate. Don't be intimidated. It's your money. You have a right to ask the questions about it. Think carefully about your financial position before you take on something. We all face crises in life, and there are times when some emergency can happen. You could have a family member that develops COVID. You have to have them admitted to the hospital, God forbid, and that interrupts their ability to work. So you may be inclined to go and get a short-term loan. But before you sign on to that loan, you need to honestly look at your ability to repay the loan and make an assessment of whether or not this puts you at risk. Make decisions that are right for you, because there may be other avenues to get the help you need. Okay, that's just one example I'm citing. Seek professional advice where available. I mean, Legal Aid Clinic is one such example. I mean, and that's just from a legal perspective. But there are other types of advisors that you may wish to have. Investment advice from a licensed investment advisor, regulated by the Financial Services Commission, is another. Okay? Many of you look very young. You look younger than me. But I was around at the time of Cash Plus and Olint. All right? So I remember, and at the time I wasn't working here, actually. I was in the British Virgin Islands. And I got a frantic call about they're guaranteeing 10% per month. And I said, that sounds very, very, very suspicious. You sure you want to put your life savings in there? And guess what? It was somebody who was selling to us, selling to my friend, And we'd known each other. We grew up together in a church group. And because of that close personal connection, you were inclined, my friend, was inclined to come on board. Don't do that. Is your money. Defend your money. Wherever you see a guaranteed rate of interest, you need to really understand what they're guaranteeing you before you come on board, okay? So really think about what it is you're doing and understand the product and get that advice. Contact the regulators, contact Bank of Jamaica, contact the Financial Services Commission before you engage. And let me tell you, if you hear about it at the hairdresser or the barber and everybody has straight to talk about it, you needs to go and contact the regulator before you come into the product, okay? Because there are lists of licensed, regulated financial institutions that you can engage with. And if whoever is offering a product or financial service is not one of those listed entities and it's a regulated financial service, you will place yourself at risk if you deal with them. Because if them disappear with your money, the money gone. And there's nothing you can do to get it back, except for a very long investigative process. So please be careful, because even friends can be duped. Only deal with regulated entities. That was the point I wanted to make, which I think I've done. So let's play a game now, okay? So this is just for you to think about. We invite people in our digital audience to also consider this. Capital gain is another term for, all right? Which account is designed to store spending money? This is going across, I should say. So let me start over. Across, number 2, capital gain is another term for. Which account is designed to store spending money? That is line 6 across, line 7 across. Maturity date is the date the blank must be repaid. Number 9 across, dividends are paid to. Think about the answers, put them forward. Going down, line 1, the principal is the blank of funds the lender provides a borrower. What is that missing word? Down, line 3, this is a fee charged for borrowing money. Down, line 4, companies raise funds through initial blank offerings. You hear these terms being bandied about a lot. We have an investment conference going on in Montego Bay. Mick is key in that. So I know Mick is smiling because I know some of the answers, but Mick cannot rattle the answers. Down, number 5 going down. ATM means automated teller blank. Down, number 8, stocks are also called. Okay, think about the answers, just to get you thinking. All right, we're going to go to the answers now. All right, I know you people are on the money. Capital gains, profits. Everybody wants to make profits in their business, right? Right? The amount that you have to pay back on a loan, okay? Your checking account is for storing money. That's for spending, regular spending. Because you know what it's like when you have your debit card and you have to go to pay. And they go, which account you must take it from? And then you go, savings. And then in your head you think, such as they are. Because you're always spending. No, you need to have a separate account for spending, all right? Interest speaks to the calculation of how much is charged on repayment of each installment of a loan. Shareholders are the persons who receive dividends, okay? The machine, ATM, automated teller machine. Shares are another term for stock, okay? And public, initial public offering. I think we've covered everything. So this is just one example of some of what we do. We play with each other. And it's all about getting you to think differently and not being afraid of concepts, financial concepts. So to find out more information on financial inclusion and financial literacy, please go to the Bank of Jamaica website. You can also see us on all our platforms. We're everywhere now. I have to really commend the Executive Director of Communications, Mr. Noel Greenland, and his team, who are there in the back doing tremendous work. We are on YouTube, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, we are everywhere, okay? We also have an annual report on financial inclusion that you can check out for more data points, and we have, as I mentioned, the financial inclusion impact indicators on our website. You can also send me an email. My email address is there, melanie.williams@boj.org.jm. You can write to our Financial Inclusion Secretariat at financialinclusion@boj.org.jm. And of course, always contact us by any questions that you may have through our main inquiry email address on Bank of Jamaica. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a few questions online.
Okay.
Hope you are all ready. So here's the first one. How does the role of Bank of Jamaica differ from the role of Financial Services Commission?
Great question. Okay. And I like that question because I'm an alumni of the Financial Services Commission as well, so God is good. The Financial Services Commission, they regulate your securities dealers. Those are the authorized intermediaries that allow you to engage in a range of security products such as equities if you want to invest in a company through the Jamaica Stock Exchange, or if you want to actually have corporate bonds, debentures as they're known. Those are the licensed entities that FSC regulates. FSC also regulates any providers of private pension products. So your approved retirement schemes are regulated by the Financial Services Commission. The superannuation funds are regulated by the FSC. They also regulate the actual individuals engaging with those arrangements, from the investment managers to the pension fund administrators. And they even have the right to ask questions of the sponsors, for example, of those arrangements. FSC also regulates insurance companies, both life insurance companies. You think of your critical accident, that type of policy, they regulate those. They regulate your general insurance companies, think of your motor vehicle registration. So that's FSC. So FSC regulates your risk mitigation through insurance. FSC regulates your investment through securities and investment advisors. FSC regulates your old people money, private, offered by private entities through private pension providers. Bank of Jamaica regulates the other half of the financial market. We regulate your credit or lending entities such as the microcredit institutions, commercial banks, and building societies. We have a fancy name and we educate our population on that, called deposit-taking institutions, which basically just means your commercial banks, your merchant banks, and your building societies. In addition, we regulate, because we have primary responsibility for the economy, we regulate the flow of funds into the economy via remittance service providers, okay? And when you're seeking to exchange currencies, the cambios, we regulate those as well. We also have oversight over the payment service providers. These are non-bank, non-DTI payment service providers. We have regulatory oversight over them and the entire plumbing of the financial system, which we call the financial markets infrastructure. That's what we regulate. And of course, we manage currency. So that's the difference. So we're sister regulators. So you have one sister that deals with insurance, pensions, securities, and trust providers. I forgot that. They also look at that. And you have another sister, the oldest sister, because we're older than FSC, the oldest sister that manages the cambios, the remittance service providers, the commercial banks, the building societies, and the merchant banks, as well as microfinance. And Bank of Jamaica primarily has responsibility for the financial system stability. So we exchange information with each other to make sure that we keep the integrity of the financial system in place.
All right. Another question. This one is from YouTube.
Okay. I mean, cross-examined.
How will persons with disabilities be integrated into the JAMDEX rollout?
Well, I know of a very important part of what's happening with JAMDEX, which is led by Deputy Governor Natalie Haynes and the Financial Market Infrastructure team, is that they engage in detailed stakeholder consultation. So in terms of meeting the people, they actually have been going out with a number of providers to actually engage directly with the public, explain the nature of the product, and answer any questions that they have. So it's all a part of not only thinking of the design features, if you will, but the marketing and addressing any concerns that they may have about how you can switch from JAMDEX, CBDC, JAMDEX, to banknotes and coins, so one-to-one exchange. They have that ongoing dialogue. There's also engagement via our website and our social media platforms. We are trying to make sure that as many Jamaicans, including persons living with disability, understand how to use JAMDEX, what it means for them, and how they can actually easily obtain value in terms of when they take that Jamdex in their wallets and they seek to pay for a service or product. What it means for them, the security features that are intended to give them the comfort that they need to have, that this is actually currency. This is distinct. This is currency that is backed by us as a central bank. So I'm aware that the CBDC team is actually continuing to engage. I believe there's ongoing engagement, for example, with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. But of course, not going to go into all of those details because I'm not actually the person who can speak to all the intricacies of that. That's led by Deputy Governor Natalie Haynes, but those aspects I am aware of.
Okay, and this one is very similar, but it starts out way better. Merry Christmas, and I hope you all enjoy cake and wine over the holidays. Someone is feeling the Christmas cheer.
That's wonderful. Merry Christmas to them.
Can I now open a bank account with the Bank of Jamaica with Jamdex?
All right, so again, let us distinguish between the role of Bank of Jamaica. Bank of Jamaica is a regulator of commercial banks. So we don't offer bank accounts here to the general public. Jamdex is being offered through a number of what we call intermediaries or providers. The key one, the first one out the blocks, is Link. And they are actually offering a CBDC wallet. So you can go directly to Link and open a CBDC wallet. CBDC, Jamdex. All right? Bank of Jamaica regulates the system. We don't offer bank accounts directly to our citizens. That's the function of retail banking, and that's not what we do. So if you want to find out more about where to get access to a CBDC wallet, we do, however, have a page on our website that would indicate the licensed entities that are offering CBDC, and I mentioned Link. You'd have seen them doing World Cup. They're still advertising doing World Cup. They're advertising doing Independence. They're everywhere. Find out about how you can actually open that wallet. It's very easy. It utilizes the simplified customer due diligence requirements, and you can just bring your TRN, your source of funds, and an ID, and you're ready to get started. So, I hope that helps. Link is up and running. Link is steadily taking steps to gain more market share and engage with the people. I hear they're all over the island. They're doing a lot of outreach. So, yeah. You know, I bust indicate quickly because, yeah, I work at Bank of Jamaica, lawyer. Always remember, Link is a separate entity from BOJ, okay? Just always remember that. Yes. Yes.
Hold on. I'm coming.
Wait for the mic so that if I may, everyone can. No, he's bringing the mic to you, yes.
In viewing one of your slides, it says that you're to ask questions before you sign.
Yes.
But I was just thinking a while ago that when you go to the bank or to transact the business, to open the account, I realized that sometimes the document itself, the information is fine print. And then for the time, so I figure more or less sometimes not to go through all of that you just signed, but I'm just asking from the Bank of Jamaica perspective, is it a way where when you communicate to the commercial banks, the different regulation, if it's that they can make the fine print a little easier for you to read, or maybe the language that is used, so that, for instance, a person with an intellectual disability can actually go and transact the business. And I would not have to be there to say, okay, this when you say this word, this is what it means, that. Because I find that sometimes persons will just go ahead and sign the document and just not realizing what you're really signing to till after the event.
Thank you so much for that question. And actually, you're highlighting a very important theme of what we do in financial literacy. So we actually have under the Banking Services Act, it's a very long name, but it's deposit-taking institutions, customer-related, I'm going to emphasize this part of the name, customer-related matters code of conduct. And in that code of conduct, which we seek to spread information about that to our public through under the law and other programs like that, you are entitled to what we call a key fact statement, which actually has a list of basic requirements that must be highlighted upfront and center, because a contract can be many pages, so it's upfront and center, which explains certain key things to you. For example, your fees, the interest rate, what is required in terms of a minimum account balance. Those things must be pulled out and put front and center in language that persons can understand. Your effective annual interest rate, what does it actually mean? And they have to give an illustrative example. What we have found in doing work on consumer protection is that all our entities seek to do that, but there's more that can be done. The fine print is fine. I remember looking at one ad, but it was an ad, not an actual document, but looking at one ad that said, smart people read the fine print. That's all well and good if you can actually see. Precisely. Persons, as Dr. Hendricks is saying, persons with visual impairments are going to have a challenge. And as we move into the digital, as Senator Morris said, you need to be able to translate that written text into voice, through voice apps, into vocalized language that persons can hear and understand. And you have to, as far as you can, avoid the use of jargon. We found when we started financial literacy, and it was a failing that we also had to deal with in many ways in terms of how we engage with the public. We want to avoid a situation where we're speaking to ourselves. It's not enough to sound smart. So you can go on in whatever business, review, program, etc., and you're speaking to yourselves. That doesn't aid in the understanding of the general population. So we're seeking to transform the language and bring it down to core brass tacks, as I say, simpler language. And that's something we're also going to be pushing very strongly as we seek to improve the legislative framework around financial consumer protection for the Bank of BOJ-regulated entities. So the points you're making are absolutely valid. We have started the process around disclosure, making sure information is up and front, but we have to do more. And the banks themselves recognize that more has to be done. Because it's also a question for them, if I am easier, I'm more accessible to you, if you understand what I'm offering you, you want to bank with me. That's why I personally will not leave my main bank. I mean, I have a number of other bankers, but my main bank I would never leave because they're upfront. You go on the website and all the information is there. The fees and charges, everything is readily apparent. And that's the standard we're expecting. And that's, ableism is, as again, Senator Morris mentioned a very important point. Ableism is a serious, serious challenge. We don't create laws just for the majority. We create laws for an entire society. And the Disabilities Act has a clear provision that prevents discrimination and requires access. We were looking at it as we were working on, as you know, the legislative framework for financial consumer protection. So I really appreciate those points you're making, and I know that the financial institutions are listening. We've had the benefit of just very initial discussions with the JBA, and they're keen to improve as well. Okay? Any other questions, if I may ask? We're good?
We have no more digital questions, any more in-house?
All right. Yes, sir. 1 second, sir. That might come to you, okay? And we are right here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I recently had an experience with NCB where I am paying back a loan. The loan is supposed to be deducted from the account on the 25th of each month. Now, the 25th fall on a Sunday that month. So they proceeded to pull the amount from the account on the Friday, which was the 23rd. Now, on that particular day, I did not have the sufficient amount to cover the loan. So you know that put the account in a negative balance state, right? So when I went in on the Saturday, because I didn't realize this until afterward, went in on the Saturday and top up the account so that the loan could be pulled, right? The loan payment. However, when I did the check, I realized that the account was in a negative state. So when I contacted them, at that point, they wanted to charge me for going below the minimum balance and all of that, right? Which I disputed that strongly. They tried to give me the runaround. Eventually, I have to tell them, say, look, if you're going to treat me unfairly, then I am not going to put any money in the account for you to pull the payments going further. So you need to, stick to your end of the bargain. Their excuse is that because the 25th fall on a Sunday, they have to pull the amount on the business day before, right? And that was not in any contract. Is that a fair way of doing business from your point of view?
Well, I will not go so far as to say whether it's fair. My question is legality. Lawyers are not necessarily fair, can I tell you? But lawyers are not necessarily fair. Lawyers are not necessarily moral. But we are concerned with legality. So to answer your question, sir, in terms of, you mentioned that it would not have been in a contract, in a written document. I think the first step that you'd have to do, in keeping with what we have in the legislative framework right now, is you'd have to file a formal complaint with the entity, okay? Under the Code of Conduct, they have to investigate and resolve their complaint within 45 days. You made mention also that you would not put any more money in that account. Be careful before any rash decision is made as a consumer, because remember, you have an ongoing liability in terms of the loan. Let me tell you in terms of the Code of Conduct, the rights that you have as a citizen. Once you have given the entity the opportunity to resolve the complaint within 45 days, which essentially is about 6 weeks, if they fail to act within that time, you can escalate the complaint to Bank of Jamaica. We have an Office of Consumer Complaints. It's actually headed by Mrs. Misha Rainford. And we will share with you the actual email. It's on our website as well. We can share that with you so that you can get that information and escalate the complaint. Because they have then to explain to you if there's nothing in the contract, in the written contract, that allows them to pull on the business day before the due date, why it was dealt with in that way. Some contracts do have such provisions, some don't. So because I'm not privy to the actual written documents, I would not be able to opine and tell you, which is give an opinion. I'm sorry, I'm really going to legalese. But give an opinion as to whether or not their actions were legally valid or not. I can tell you the mechanisms you need to engage in to get resolution. So first things first, you need to make a written complaint to that entity. I will not repeat the name of the entity because I'm with Bank of Jamaica, the regulator of all commercial banks. You're going to put forward that written complaint. They would have to have a channel within that, and they do have a channel within which to address complaints. They must revert to you in writing within 45 days. If they need an extension, they have to advise both Bank of Jamaica and yourself that they need an extension of time, and it's limited under the law as to how much of an extension they can get. And if they fail to actually respond to you within 45 days, you come to us at Bank of Jamaica, and we take it on. Okay, so that's the actual mechanism. Now, you asked whether or not it's fair, generally. We're working on legislation right now that seeks to improve financial consumer protection. We are policy advisors, if you will. There's a term that you will hear in government referred to a lot as policymakers. Policymakers are our legislators who sit in Parliament. They make the laws. So we're working on a financial consumer protection framework that would look at issues around banking services, and we're putting forward certain proposals, mindful of concerns that are being raised. And we also intend to have, through the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service, the appropriate engagement with the public on an ongoing basis, similar to what we did when we had NIDS 2.0. All right? Not the first NIDS, but 2.0. You saw that kind of engagement. Now, we can't speak for the Ministry of Finance, but we have heard the minister himself begin the process of educating the public, which is why I feel I'm at liberty to say that to you, if you will. Once those proposals are put forward and tabled in Parliament and debated on, and the legislation is in place, you'll find that there are a range of broader powers that are available to our financial service consumers that cover everything from complaints handling, how interest is dealt with, variations in the interest rate and how that's communicated to you, how you resolve a matter, and if you don't get satisfactory resolution, how you can take it a step further at minimal cost to you. That's what we're working on from a Bank of Jamaica perspective without getting into the details. Because we also have another piece of legislation, an ancient piece of legislation called the Official Secrets Act. And I can't get into any more details because I can technically be in prison for this thing for how many years. So that's what I can tell you at this juncture. But when we get out there, watch the Bank of Jamaica space, watch our radio presence, watch Ministry of Finance and the Public Services radio presence. They have a great communications team. We're going to be getting that information out there. And I mean, our Minister of Finance, he not easy. He already on Twitter, he set up Twitter rooms and have discussions and fields questions. So, you know, that type of concern you have, the concern about fine print, the concern about going up to a teller and having to divulge your personal information. Concerns like that need to be articulated. The absence of getting access to voice apps that allow for translation of written text, those are concerns that have to be articulated, okay? So again, and this may be through your work, Dr. Hendricks, as those concerns are in fact tabulated, feel free to share that with the Financial Inclusion Technical Secretariat, because we can then take that and put that as part of the policy recommendations that we send to the ministry, okay? So thank you. Any more questions from the audience or online? Are we okay? Okay, good. All right, colleagues, I'm going to break, mindful that it's almost lunchtime, and we have lunch actually outside for you, so I'm going to hand back over to Dr. Hendricks. I'm keeping up 2 other presenters, so thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Melanie Williams.
Welcome.
Wasn't that good information, good interaction? And I must, congratulate the Bank of Jamaica. Just as a regular, ordinary citizen, watching the television and seeing the ads, we have been saying, in my family, wow, Bank of Jamaica never used to advertise, but now they are, to explain to us, in Jamaican language, easy to understand language about financial inclusion and other matters. We are way over time. And so we have one more presentation before our key takeaways. And so I'm going to jump into introducing Mr. Paul Chin, Manager, Investor Relations at the Development Bank of Jamaica. Sir, thank you for sticking and staying. He's going to be speaking about financial products, services, and initiatives.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hendricks. All protocols observed. I realize that I'm standing between everyone and lunch, so I will make my presentation. Okay, thank you. Very short. Okay, so as I said, I'm here representing the Development Bank of Jamaica, and I know the name is fairly common, but I've also run into a number of persons who don't know what the Development Bank does, or DBJ for short. So DBJ has as its mission to provide opportunities to all Jamaicans to improve their quality of life through development financing, capacity building, public-private partnership, and privatization, and all of this is in keeping with government policy and sustainable development goals. Now, DBJ operates one office in Kingston at 11A to 15 Oxford Road. Not yet. Right, and this one office has a downside to it, in that we have to operate through who we call intermediaries. So our services are funneled through financial intermediaries, such as microfinance institutions, as well as AFIs, that is your approved financial institutions, or your commercial banks, credit unions, and so on. And we also work closely with business development organizations, such as the JBDC, among others. And that is how our services filter down to businesses and entrepreneurs. Our services fall under 3 main categories. Our grant facilities, and as you know, grant is free money, technically, because you don't have to pay it back. We also have loan products, and we have a product that we are particularly happy about, and that is our credit guarantee facility. And I'll tell you more about the credit guarantee facility later on in the presentation. So right now we have an energy audit grant for businesses And this grant will assist you in determining what your energy usage is like. Are you paying JPS too much money because of inefficiencies within your operations? We work directly with professionals, certified energy professionals who are able to come in, do an analysis of what you're doing, and to provide recommendations for energy savings. And this grant twins with a loan facility, and I'll tell you about the loan facility when I go down a couple of slides. We currently have a patent grant, which was recently launched, and we know Jamaicans are very creative, and we always have good ideas. We want to be able to patent those ideas and protect our intellectual property. This grant will provide you with assistance for your patent application fees to cover things like drafting and filings, amendments, as well as examiner review, engaging an approved patent attorney. Okay, not very good. Okay. Engaging an approved patent attorney to conduct things like pre-filing searches and so on. This grant is accessible through our website, and I'll give you the web address closely at the end of the presentation, sorry. There are unpatentable products such as methods of performing mental acts, mathematics, algorithms and formulas, natural occurring things, scientific principles, and so on. And all of these are outlined on our website. We have an IGNITE grant. Now, IGNITE is an acronym for, I can never remember the acronym, Innovation Grant from New Ideas to Entrepreneurship. That's what IGNITE means. IGNITE was opened on the 8th of November and closes on the 16th of November. Now, this grant will provide you with up to $7 million. So the grant has two tranches. $3 million for business ideas or businesses in the ideation stage. So if you have a new business idea, technologically driven and so on, you can apply for the grant to assist you to commercialize your idea. We also have another component, which is the $7 million grant, and this is for commercialization. So you already have the business idea. My slides aren't working with me here. You already have the business idea and you want to take it to market. We can provide you with up to $7 million to assist you in doing so. Here we go. Now, we have our loan products, and I mentioned earlier our energy loan, which kind of works hand in hand with our grants. So we have energy loans for both residential and commercial purposes. Commercial purposes up to $30 million, and for residential loans, we have loans up to $5 million. And this is for energy efficiency, so things like PV photovoltaic or solar panels and solar systems. We also do wind and the like. And interest rates very competitive at 8.75%. Here we go. Up to 8.75% in interest and tenure of up to 10 years. That's the time you will get to pay back the loan. And these facilities can get you a moratorium on principal payment. So moratorium meaning you don't have to pay any of your principal for a year on this facility. Let's look at our latest loan programs. We have an entertainment support facility, a transport support facility, and an agricultural support facility. And the primary objectives of these facilities are to assist micro and small entrepreneurs to recover from the effects of COVID-19. We were in lockdown for pretty much 2 years, and we know that a number of businesses suffered during this period. So primarily, we want to expand business activities. So let's look at the entertainment support loan facility. This facility is geared towards MSMEs, such as party promoters, clothing store, restaurants, wholesalers, printing companies, and so on. All persons which will or who operate within the entertainment space. You have persons who do things like round robins on a monthly basis. They are able to access this type of facility. Facility is primarily for working capital. It can be used also to refinance existing loans and for capital expenditure. So if you need to buy a piece of equipment, this loan can be utilized for that purpose. Features of the facility. So a total of $250 million has been allocated, and these facilities will allow you to access a loan of up to $750,000, repayable over 2 years with up to 3 months moratorium on your principal payment. And the facility is eligible for DBG's credit enhancement facility, which I will elaborate on a little further on in the presentation. We also have an SME line, still under entertainment, and we have allocated $100 million to allow you to access loans of up to $5 million, repayable up to 2 years, and these loans are accessed through microfinance institutions, and they're also eligible for support through the credit enhancement facility. We also have a bigger component of the entertainment loan, and this can get you loans of up to $10 million through your commercial banks with up to 5 years repayment, and again, up to 3 months moratorium on your principal payment. We have a transport loan facility, and we have been trying to work with various transport bodies to have this product roll out into the market. The facility is primarily accessed through microfinance institutions and is targeted at taxi operators, bus operators, tour operators, and persons operating within the tourism space. The facility is geared towards working capital as well as to finance existing loans. It is not for capital expenditure, so if you need a new vehicle, this is not the type of facility that will get you that new vehicle. It's primarily for things like tires, batteries, and to maybe undertake repairs to your vehicles. The facility is up to a maximum of $750,000. Also eligible for credit enhancement and repayable over 2 years. And these loans can be accessed through your microfinance institutions. Our agricultural support program, the facility was officially launched in July of this year, and it is, no, not yet. It is geared towards micro as well as SME. There are 2 components, a learning facility and a technical assistance grant. Under the micro loan, we have allocated up to $200 million for loans of up to $2 million with loan tenors of up to 3 years. And again, you're eligible for a moratorium of up to 3 months on your principal payment. And the facility is also entitled for support under the CEF facility. We're looking at companies registered with RADA as well as with the Companies Office of Jamaica. And of course, because we support the market through AFIs and MFIs, the overall adjudication process resides with AFIs and MFIs, so you have to be able to meet that. So things like your cash flows, those must be in evidence because you have to substantiate your ability to repay the loans. Some of the features, we have allocated up to $800 million, and maximum loans of up to $30 million can be accessed. Again, a moratorium of up to 12 months. We know persons, if you plant crops, crops will take time to come in. We want to give you that space to be able to plant, reap, and then start paying back your loan. You can get up to 120 months, that's 10 years, for repayment of the facility. And the facility is also eligible for the credit enhancement support. General criteria for sub-borrowers, you have to be registered and operating in Jamaica, tax compliance, technical and financially viable, and you will need an equity injection of up to 30%. Usually operates between 10 and 30%. The primary reason for this, institutions are going to ask you to have some skin in the game. They will seldomly lend you 100% because that puts you in a position to simply walk away if your venture is not going well. If you have a financial stake in it, the expectation is you will stick around and you will try and see it through to the end. That's the primary reason for asking or not providing loans of up to 100%. I mentioned the credit enhancement facility. Now, this facility, we always hear the cry from entrepreneurs that I don't have security for my borrowings. Credit enhancement facility can provide you with that support to access loans. The facility can get you collateral support of up to $30 million, representing 80% of your project cost. We also have a smaller guarantee for smaller loans of up to $11.1 million. We will support up to 90% of your collateral requirement, or up to a maximum of $10 million. Guarantees can be outstanding for as long as 10 years, and there is a fee for the guarantee, which is 2%. To be able to qualify for a credit enhancement facility support, you have to be earning annual sales of under $425 million, which is the official cutoff for a medium-sized business under the government's description of businesses. You must be tax compliant, and of course, you must have some proven record of an ability to repay, which translates to good credit history. And the facility does not support the refinancing of existing loans. So it has to be new loans that the institution is looking to put on its books. So we can be reached through a number of media. We have our switchboard lines, 929-4000 or 619-4000, and we also have a WhatsApp line, which is for text only. If you call the line, you will not get a response. If you send a text message, someone will respond to you within 24 hours. We have a number of websites, dbankjm.com, that's the main DBJ website. We also have DBJ CEF, which will give you additional information on the CEF, or the Credit Enhancement Facility. And we have thinkbiggie.com, which will give you information on the earlier grants that I mentioned, such as the Ignite and the patent grant. And you can also shoot us an email at mail@dbankjm.com. So we are easily reached, and we ask that you reach out to us for additional information and support. And there ended my presentation. And I will field any questions that you may have of me.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
Pertaining to the grant, how do we get access to the grant?
So access to, I mentioned two grants, the patent grant as well as the Ignite grant. The Ignite grant, you can apply through the DBJ website or through the Think Biggie website. How the grant operates is that you have at your disposal 6 or 7 business support intermediaries, JBDC being one of them, which will assist you in filling out your grant application, for Ignite. And as I mentioned, Ignite has two components, a 3 million grant for ideation and a 7 million grant for commercialization. All the other grants are accessible through the DBJ website. So you can simply log on and you will be taken to the different areas where you can fill out the application and apply for a grant.
Next question, is there any special requirements in order to get the grant?
Requirements, of course, you have to be a registered business to access. It has to be a business idea. So you're either going to register the business to apply for Ignite if it's a new venture, or you are already registered and you're able to provide information on your business registration.
Okay.
That's primarily the only criteria. And of course, you have to be below the threshold of $425 million. These grants are for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. We don't cater to large at this level with these types of grants.
Okay, that make it easy.
Hope that helps.
That make it easy. That
Okay,
make it
great.
much easier. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
We have one question? Okay. Okay, thank you so very much. You know, persons with disabilities are very creative, and so that patenting opportunity is one that I'm sure that some persons can make use of. All right, so we are going now to our key takeaways. We have had a wonderful morning into afternoon, and so Mrs. Jacqueline Bennett, Senior Social Worker from the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, will come with the key of the key takeaways since we are wrapping up. Thank you again, Sir Chin.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocol observed. Okay, I said, wow. Today has been such a full information, right? But nevertheless, what do we take away from all that was said this morning? But first, before I enter into the takeaways, I want to say that financial inclusion for persons with disability involves reducing the gap. There are a number of research carried out, and it shows that adopting a digital method tailored to include persons with disability will enhance nation building, employment, and empowering our society, right? So we have gone through, we have listened to all the presentation today. Dr. Floyd Morris give us that pathway as where we should go, where we should be at. And of course, in his presentation, he spoke about a number where we are coming from, the medical model, the welfare model, and we're now looking at the human rights base. And of course, it is stated that every person within our society have a right to access the different services in our country, right? Because that's what makes us our country. We have the different grouping of person that makes up, right? And so, transforming to digital must be accommodated for persons with disability. So we're going into digital, and he gave his experience that he went to the bank to do his business, and the keypad was not accessible enough for him to put in his personal, instead of to ask somebody to do that. So one takeaway from that is that whatever instrument that is developed, we have to ensure, following the Disability Act, that persons with disability are included in the development, from developmental stage. Because it doesn't make any sense we develop the product, and at the end of the day, persons with disability are not able to access. And we talk about persons with disability, we're not only talking about persons who are blind, but we're talking the entire group. So we're looking at the community of persons who are deaf, we're looking at those with intellectual disability, right? And so the Bank of Jamaica has a campaign, and our ably Miss Williams, right, explained to us the objective of the bank, what the bank is doing, and what the bank is actually rolling out to do, and which include persons with disability. That informations are there, the different platforms the bank has that persons can access to gain more knowledge, more information, where they can go and get the service done, right? One part that stood out for me is the education and training. So within the community of persons with disability, we know that education and training, financial education and training is very important. It is so important because at the council, Jamaica Council for Persons with Disability, we have an entrepreneur program, economic empowerment program. And a lot of times we give these money to persons, and sometimes we do some amount of training. But if it is that we can liaison more with the bank or the different institution, we can have somewhat a better financial educational program. So our persons, when they access whether loan or grants, they know how important it is and how to make the money turn, make it profitable. Another takeaway, access to financial policy. The MSME policy, there's a policy out there, and I'm sure that a lot of persons within the community of persons with disability probably heard about it, but never really zoom in to see what it offers. And what stood out for me, goal number 2, right? It targets persons with disability. The information is there, they can access the loan. And also, goal number 6, right? It provides support. It facilitates full inclusion of persons with disability, improving the MSA and the expansion of the project. And we look at, and I thought this was very important because I look at movable access, where it doesn't mean that you have to own a land, house, but there are things that you can use to access that loan, right? To ensure that the business move right along, right? It can be, that has been there for some times, but I'm sure now the community of persons with disability within the disability sector did not know that these instruments are there so they can access it. And it looks at agriculture. Here, here in the beauty culture section, where for persons with disabilities that hairdresser, there are access that they can access the loan. If it is that there, a lot of times you get persons who do selling of clothing, right? There's access there that they can also use, and the information that they can use to enhance, to propel their business, to make it better, make it profitable. And of course, that will also be participating in nation building. Business development services, right? And it's a key sector where persons with disability is like a school in its own self. Persons with disability can go there, come up with a business idea, give the business idea, you get guidance to start and to the end, right? And I've also heard Dr. Hendricks mention earlier on that the Business Development Center has expanded, and that is so true, because the service that was spoken about today, I didn't realize that they have now stretched far and wide. Persons in the rural area can also access the services and the different things. They do counseling, money management. Another important part that we're walking away with today is budgeting. A lot of us, and I must say I'm guilty, because budget, sometimes you put a budget, and because you go on the road or you go somewhere, you go online, and you see the product, and you decide to buy it, and you really did not need to buy it. So within the community of persons with disability, one of the walkaway, we're going to know budget. We're doing a business is a business. And we have to treat it, and I've always said this, treat it as a business. income, expenditure, what you pay yourself, what you need to buy on the product to invest in the business. And so we have to think that way if you want to be successful in the business. Because as the research tells you, about 91% of persons with disability are unemployed. And so if if entrepreneurship is the key, and I tell you, in any country, entrepreneurship is the way to go. Because the thing about it, government will not be able to employ everybody, private sector will not be able to employ everybody. So therefore, we have to create employment across the board. Now, one of the ways when we treat we have to treat the business as a business, and the first thing we have to do is to get our business registered, and that is so important. A lot of times we receive the application for economic empowerment, and you'd ask for a simple business plan, and there's no name of the business. And so sometimes I would encourage person, what is the name of the business? Oh, I never think about it. I just want to do a little thing. So I'm saying from today, we want to chart the process that we know, look at our business and give it a name. We get the business register. And quite frankly, I think the lady mentioned it was $2,500, right? Pretty minimal. We need to know, think about our business. Those who already have a business and the business does not have a name, we need to think of a name and get the business registered. Because the thing about it that there are so many loan grants out there. But if your papers, if your document of the business is not documented, then therefore you will not be able to access that grant or loan that is out there for the business. So promoting financial literacy and customer protection is also important. So when we go into the institution to access loans, grants, we need to know what is that we're asking for. If it is that we're asking for money to be paid back, is it a grant for 3 years? We have to ensure that our documents, our papers for the business is up to date. We just don't want to operate anyhow. Gone are the days when we used to just operate. We just get our money and we do a little thing. But now we want to put our things in a particular standard, and so we can expand. We can employ other persons with disability. We can do other things, right? And so it is important that the different ads on the platform BOJ has, we listen to them, we follow them, we can call, we send a message so we can know. Because when we do that, we're doing our research, we are enhancing ourselves and our business and also enhancing other persons with disability, right? So we need to be aware of our rights. It is there in front of us, right? And so we can ensure that whatever direction the business will be taking, we know exactly what is coming in, what is going out, what we signed to, what we did not sign to. We need to, another important thing that came out again was that we need to read and understand what is that we're signing to, right? And don't wait till after. You ever hear them say a saying when the horse gone through the gate, and then they say, I didn't know this and whatever, but we just now have to, in the community of persons with disability, we now have to, the Disability Act is out there, we now have to understand what the Act says, and we have to work in accordance to the Act and spread our wings so we can fly, be butterfly and just bloom and just expand the business, right? Do you agree? All right, so in a nutshell, basically, is looking at the whole financial literacy, and that's what we are going to know. Moving towards how well we know the business that we want, the time that we are going to spend in the business, and the whole gamut of activities. So we know where to get the loans, but first, I believe that financial literacy, we need to look into ourselves. What is that we know, what we don't know? And what we know, we know. And what we need to improve upon, we seek the advice, we seek help so that we can chart the path that we desire to be, right? So I hope and I pray that today what we take away from it, we just don't go on the online or sit in the room here listening, but we actually practice it, all right? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so very much. Mrs. Bennett. What a day it has been. I truly want to say thanks to the Bank of Jamaica, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce for conceiving along with us and dreaming along with us and bringing today to fruition and allowing this matter of financial inclusion to not only include others, but include persons with disabilities. Technology, along with the Disabilities Act, technology is the way to go to ensure that that inclusion becomes a reality. And so, you know, we look forward to the work hereon. I have been hearing quite a bit being said, and the term that comes to mind is universal design, because we want to ensure that the products and the services that are being offered, that persons do not think that they are tailor-making them specifically only for persons with disabilities, but they understand that when you make it universally designed, you can impact everybody with the same product. Of course, there are sometimes you will have to make some tweaks, but largely universal design can be utilized and be beneficial to all at once. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Senior State Minister represented by Mr. Oral Shaw, Principal Director, MSME Office. Dr. Wayne Robinson, Senior Deputy Governor of the Bank of Jamaica. Senator Dr. Floyd Morris, Ms. Karen Hilton from MIC, Mrs. Melissa Barrett from the JBDC, Mrs. Yolande Rowe Fender from the Company's Office of Jamaica, Ms. Melanie Williams, the heart of it all, of the BOJ, Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Paul Chen, Manager, Investor Relations, Mrs. Jacqueline Bennett, once again, our technical teams, communication team, or media persons, persons with disabilities, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, staff of the BOJ and MIC, and everybody who came online and in person to make today a success. I just want to say thank you. Those who streamed so that our online audience could participate. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking the step and taking the plunge. And we look forward to number 2 and walking the road to full inclusion. Thank you very much again. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. How could I forget Tony, our sign language interpreter, without whom our community of deaf persons would not be able to participate. So thank you, Tony Aiken from Tony Terp, Interpreting Services. Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful day.